you couldn't ask for a more beautiful day. There are bright blue skies over Atlanta International Raceway, located about 28 miles south of the center of downtown Atlanta, just off of the Peach Blossom Trail. 42 Winston Cup stock cars lined up, waiting for their command to fire engines. An interesting race lies ahead of us. On the pole is Alan Kulwicki. This is his first pole here at Atlanta, and he at this moment is with Jack Arute.
And Paul, in the first two races thus far this season, Alan Kulwicki has played an important role in the outcome of both. At the Daytona 500, he almost won, and as you saw on the tees, he finished second in Rockingham. But Alan, your first pole of the year, and do you seek this race with a vengeance, feeling the Winston Cup Series owes you something this early?
No, I don't think it owes us anything. We've been running well. I'm pleased with the way things are running. Everything's going good on the team. Everyone's getting along, and we're having a good time. I'm real pleased with the way things are going, but we're going to try hard to win this race, as hard as ever. And the closer you get to winning, the more you want to win. We're hungry.
Now, when you are hungry, though, and especially at the start with 41 cars behind you, just what do you have to think about when you hurdle into that turn one for the first time?
Well, I'm hungry to win the race, but we're not going to win the race on the first lap. You know, we're still changing a few little things on the car. We made another change this morning, and it's going to take a little while to get sorted out. So we'd like to at least lead a lap and run good all day with the Xerox Ford Thunderbird. But, you know, they tell us every week you're not going to win it on the first lap. So we'll just go by feel.
Well, if you believe in numbers, Paul, thus far both victories have come from the front row. So that stands in good stead for Kulwicki today. Well, and he's strapped in, ready to go racing in one of those favored Ford entries. Now, if we look back through the field, back to the 8th row, another Ford belongs to the defending Winston Cup champion, Bill Elliott. Now, he fractured his wrist before the start of the season, has not finished a complete race yet this season because of that. But today, well, it may be the first time. Let's go down to Bill Elliott and Jerry Punch.
Well, Paul, this driver, no stranger to driving hurt here in Atlanta. 4 years ago, it was a broken left leg. Today, as you said, it's a broken left arm. Now, as you see, 37 days ago, a little over 5 weeks ago, he broke his left arm. The distal radius and ulna, the bones in the left forearm, were fractured. Now, he has not been able to drive at all. He is now wearing a splint or a brace. And, Bill, 2 weeks ago, you said you couldn't drive the car if you wanted to. Today, you're going to try. What's the difference?
Well, I think the period of time that I've gotten a lot better as far as my hand's concerned. Plus, we've changed the car around where it's a little bit easier to drive. It's got a different feel. It's a little bit harder for me to get used to. Plus, I've not really raced since this race last fall. So, you know, I'm getting in a different situation here. I hope I can run all day, and I hope we have a good run.
You have some genuine concerns about wearing the splint today in the race. What are they?
Well, the only thing I'm concerned about is if, you know, I can't be as mobile as I need to be in the race car. You know, if a situation happens, I'm a lot better off than I was, you know, 2 weeks ago, but still, I'm not, I feel like 100%. It'll probably be several weeks before I am.
Just as any athlete who limps onto a playing field knows that winning, there is sacrifice. This defending Winston Cup champion knows that today, he too must endure the pain. Hey, Vince Lombardi would love this guy. Paul?
Well, and he's certainly got plenty of fans here in the stands. Bill Elliott comes from Dawsonville, Georgia. Now, the driver's strapped in, ready to go. It's time for that most famous command in racing.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Engines are fired and we're ready to go racing. Hello, I'm Paul Page, and Atlanta International is a terrific little super speedway. Very, very fast, but Bobby Unser, we're talking about a track in which you're almost constantly turning. In fact, you're turning for 2/3 of your lap.
That's right, Paul. This is known as a driver's track or a handling track. For example, there is more turns, as you've mentioned, than there is straightaways, so the drivers, however fast they get through those turns, is going to determine how fast they go down the straightaways. There is very little slipstreaming here because there are just so many turns, and it doesn't help that much there like it does at Daytona. Even the Fords may have a little bit of advantage here, they claim, because of the torque they have. And besides that, think it's only 1.5 miles around, and it's 175 miles an hour average. And it's a beautiful racetrack.
We're talking high bank, we're talking fast speeds, we're also talking a main straightaway that's only 55 feet wide. Now, Sam Posey, the names in the front row, Kulwicki, Martin. Are we looking at a new complexion in NASCAR racing now?
Well, Paul, yeah, we're looking at a changing of the guard, literally. Bobby Allison, Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons, Cale Yarborough are no longer racing. Instead, we're looking at a whole new breed of drivers that's coming along, and an exciting group of men it is, too. Now, this race with Kulwicki and Martin, as you mentioned, on the front row is going to give us a glimpse at what the future of NASCAR racing may be like. Now, neither of these men is exactly a kid. Alan Kulwicki is 34 years old. Mark Martin is 30 years old. And this is symptomatic of how much experience it takes in NASCAR these days just to be considered one of the new guys on the block. Paul?
All right, so the field ready to pull out. The pace cars begin to inch their way forward. The drivers, this is a last opportunity to check with their crews. And now the front row begins to roll forward. All cars are started, and we are ready to go racing. The entire field now rolls away at Atlanta International. The field in stock car racing starts in the pits, rolls out onto the racetrack, and we are anticipating 2 laps to the green flag. This race today, well, it's scheduled for 500 miles. The track at Atlanta is a little over 1.5 miles around, measured right down the middle of the track. That's 328 laps to equal the full distance. The defending champion is Dale Earnhardt, and today's weather is absolutely perfect for racing. Sunshine shines down on the race course, and the temperature is perfect. Now, the makes in the field, Ford, 2 cars in the front row. There are 8 Fords. The rest of the lineup machines there. And Hoosier Tire decided they would not compete at this race, so all of the tires on cars here today are Goodyear tires. Now, let's take a look at the starting grid for this Atlanta 500. The pole position, Alan Kulwicki. It's his 8th Atlanta start. Never before has he qualified better than 12. Alongside is Mark Martin, a former short track champion. He's looking for his first NASCAR Winston Cup win. The second row is Rusty Wallace, who has won 5 out of the last 7 NASCAR races. And alongside is Darrell Waltrip, his 17th start in the Atlanta 500. He has 2 victories on this track in 77 and 82. The third row, Dale Earnhardt, the current point leader, has won 3 of the last 9 races here in Atlanta. And alongside is Jeff Bodine. Past 3 years, he has only won 1 race. The fourth row, Harry Gant, with a new team and a renewed outlook for 1989. And alongside is Sterling Marlin, the second-generation driver, 5th now in NASCAR points. The 5th row, Davey Allison to the inside, who 1 year ago crashed hard here in turn 1. He's looking for his first win of this season. Alongside is Dale Jarrett, now the full-time driver for the retired Cale Yarborough. And we look back now through the rest of this field. Now, Sterling Marlin had a crash in practice yesterday, so he's starting his backup car and will move all the way to the back of the field and start in the last position. Looking down through the field in the 11th row, Kenny Schrader, who's the Daytona pole sitter, starting way back in 11th. The Petties scheduled to start side by side in the 12th row, and a lot of people expect a lot out of Rick Wilson, who is starting well back in the 16th position. So the field is set. Sterling Marlin will slide to the back. Everyone on that row will move forward, and they'll anticipate a green flag here at Atlanta, 500 miles ahead. Now, we have some onboard cameras, 4 of them for you today. 3 of them have been positioned in the first 2 rows, so you'll be able to see some truly unique views. As we're on board now with the pole sitter, Alan Kulwicki, just a pace car ahead. He begins now to settle down, consider what he has to anticipate, and decide what he is going to have to do in the next few laps to get in front. Mark Martin out to the outside. The rest of the field closing up now as they move into position in the 3rd turn, and the pace car begins to advance the field now and start its run for the pit area. Darrell Waltrip sitting back in that 2nd row as the pace begins to quicken now. Coming through the 4th turn. The first 2 rows tighten up. Now the pace comes up, the fans on their feet. And it's green flag, and we're racing as Harold Pinder starts this field smoothly through the 1st turn. Mark Martin takes the high line and pulls just a nose ahead. Nice smooth start as Kulwicki drops back, and Darrell Waltrip begins a challenge. they head through number 3 and head for 4.
Not a breath of wind here today, Paul. Absolutely perfect racing conditions.
Coming around the conclusion of the first lap, Mark Martin taking that high line and working it to his advantage as Kulwicki drops into second place. And now it is Wallace, Waltrip, and Rusty Wallace that begin a battle.
You notice, Paul, their cars were starting to wiggle a little bit there. That's not the drafting that's causing that. It's the turbulence from around the sides of the cars. Look at number 3. You see the car there? Just Dale Earnhardt just wiggle a little bit. That's caused by the wind coming around the front of the cars. They're all going to just be feeding them out for a little while to see how the cars handle.
As we're watching that number 3 car, as he came through the 4th turn, you saw a bit of blue smoke at the right rear of the car. Now, that's probably tire smoke, and it speaks to a problem that we might face here today, Bobby.
Well, what it is tire smoke for sure, Paul. What it is the thing got loose. The right rear just got a little bit loose, caused by all that turbulent air. And remember, when there's all of these cars bunched up together, all of the air is turbulent, so you never know if it's going to pull you to the right or to the left.
Mark Martin leads it. This is the fight for second place as Wallace comes inside Kulwicki, tries to forge his way ahead, and pushes his nose ahead of...
Because they have so many laps to go, and they say they'll fix it during that first stop. So we're going to begin to see some of the juggling back and forth here on pit road, probably before that first stop, to adjust to a very loose racetrack.
Waltrip fights with Earnhardt for 5th place. They both continue their battle, but everyone has to worry about their tires.
And when you see Dale Earnhardt working underneath Waltrip like that, right like they are right now, Paul, he's actually helping Darrell. He's not there because he wants to help him. He's trying to pass him, but he's really holding Darrell down because where Darrell was loose and he's on that side or the left side of the car, it kind of pulls him right back down. And here's our cam showing out of the back of Darrell's car, watching Earnhardt come up and try another pass on him, but that's the part that's helping him right there.
Most of the drivers say that the tires have 4, maybe as many as 10 good laps from their new condition, and then they become pretty slick and they're very hard to race. We mentioned Rick Wilson in the starting grid, and he started 32nd. Already he is up to 22nd. Bill Elliott, who started 16th, is now running 13th, and of course Mark Martin, the blue number 6, is your leader.
Of course, we saw the smoke start to go away on Earnhardt's car. You see the leaderboard here with Mark Martin out front.
And one car with a problem. That's the number 71 machine of Dave Marcus, with smoke at the back, and it looks, Bobby Unser, like his engine's gone.
Yes, it probably is that. I watched Dave working yesterday. I've known Dave for years. Good friend of mine, and I watched yesterday, and he seemed to be having a few problems in the engine department. He worked all day just on the engine.
Too bad. We have a lot of opportunity to spend time with Dave Marcus, and we really hope for more from him. He is one of the guys who sets up the IROC cars, and we really hope that he was going to see more today. We've got a yellow over in the second turn as one car spins. Hard to tell if there was contact with the wall. Car gets down low now. Reported as Jim Bowen. Down
Good.
low, and it didn't look like there was contact.
Right, no multiple pileup here, as we have seen in the first 2 Winston Cup races of the year. There have been pileups involving 5, 6, 7 cars. One car spinning, others plowing into it. Fortunately, this is a 1-car incident.
When you run as close as they do in Winston Cup racing, and one car loses it, everyone behind has to drive very carefully. And more than once, we've seen the freeway-style accident as everyone tries to jump on the brakes, but it doesn't work. So the caution is out on the Speedway.
Also, put yourself in the position of the drivers on these steeply banked curves. It's very hard to see ahead. We see their cars easily up there on the banking, but really it's like running around the inside of a rim of a teacup. It's very hard to look ahead.
That's right, Sam. In fact, what happens is when you get in the middle of the turn, it doesn't look like it's on television, but you get in the middle of the turn, you're actually looking up towards the roof of the car to look down the road, and that's a little hard for people to understand that sometimes.
All right, we go back and take a look at the cause for this caution as he just simply lost it to the high side, got up, maybe grazed the wall just a little bit, no more than a little bit. You can see by the back end there, slides down and comes to a stop, and that brings out the caution with 12 laps complete in the Atlanta 500. We'll be back with more right after this.
I thought I had something as long as we were on one car, and I didn't
fine then. Bobby, you okay?
Yes, sir.
Everybody comfortable? Y'all doing good? Greg, sounding good? That worked well. Yes. Okay. That side. Fine then. Yeah, I think we're fine.
Good. Nice natural pause.
How long are they going to be
Not too long.
Bodine is what? About third place. He's going to start a push in here too. He's got to watch for them. Everybody stay around.
Okay.
Bodine is in third. Rusty is second.
Yes, wonderfully.
Yep. I think that's push when you see a car going backwards.
Yeah, I don't think that. Be very nervous again since 73 at Indy. Okay.
Ask for an explanation on that if you'd like.
Oh, you think you can do it?
No.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure either.
He didn't come in. Earnhardt didn't hit him. Schrader is already hit.
We are getting these pits, right? Tracking pit stop.
Schrader's been in.
We're back at Atlanta International Raceway. I'm Paul Page with Sam Posey, Bobby Unser, Jack Arute, and Jerry Punch. We're under caution. Caution coming out on a single car spin. But the matter that we really want to examine is that of how all of these cars are sticking. There is a question about tires. They seem to go away after 3 or 4 laps, maybe as many as 10. Now watch the black number 3 car, as he's having a lot of trouble keeping stuck to the racetrack.
Well, he is. Now, right here, he's pulling Darrell Waltrip down, helping Darrell stay on the racetrack, but look at it, pulls him loose. You see the black car, and it just pulls the rear end slowly back around.
That's because there's a natural vacuum, right, behind
Right.
Waltrip's car, into which the tail of Earnhardt's car is trying to move.
And it's the only way that he has to pass. He has to go underneath him, Sam, so it just pulls Dale Earnhardt just a little bit loose. And remember, the drivers can actually run the cars harder than what the tires will take sometimes, so they have to space out their tires over a long period of time.
Jack Arute.
Well, Bobby Unser, you're also correct, but one of the things that we've learned in polling a lot of the front runner crew chiefs is they feel that maybe they went a little bit the wrong way during that last practice session yesterday. All the cars get a final practice session late in the afternoon, and the sun was setting, and it was about 20 degrees cooler at that time than it is right now here at about 2:30 in the afternoon. So where they feel they may have chosen the wrong way to go in terms of stagger and setup for the early going of a race, because I've never seen so many cars loose going into it.
All right, let's go further down the pitch. Jerry Punch.
Well, you know, Jack talking about the fact they may have missed the setup here, and these tires may be so critical here. Hoosier is not here, as we've said. It's only Goodyear. There are 341 sets of these tires mounted here up and down pit road. That's over $260,000. The average, about 7 or 8 sets per team. Who has the most tires? It's right here in the Rusty Wallace pit. They have 16 sets of tires, over $14,000 invested in new rubber here today in Atlanta. And from the looks of the first few laps, they're going to need every single one of them. Paul?
I think a point should be made. I mean, Goodyear goes to a lot of trouble to make sure that enough tires are on hand, and they have tire engineers constantly monitoring them. The problem manifests itself in the tire, because that's what's touching the race course. But in truth, you can have a perfectly good tire, and if you set the car up wrong, the tire is going to appear to be bad. It's really a problem of the setup and what the mechanics decide.
That's absolutely right, Paul, and you want to remember these cars are 3,000 some odd pounds. They're very heavy cars, and the tires have limits on how wide they can be and how big they can be by NASCAR rules, so the tires really get used the hardest. And Goodyear naturally would come here with a tire that they think is going to be relatively safe, or what we refer to as being a hard tire. So the drivers just run them as hard as they can. make the adjustments when they come into the pit, and the best drivers are the guys that can stretch those tires a little bit longer.
The blue number 6 belongs to Mark Martin, looking for his first Winston Cup win. He jumped into the lead on the green flag and has led into this caution period, and now is behind the pace car as they bring the field back down and anticipate a start once again. It will be coming to the flag. Martin followed by Rusty Wallace, then Jeff Bodine and Alan Kulwicki, and the green flag flies again. As it's Wallace down to the inside, putting the challenge on Mark Martin. The rest of the field comes through smoothly. And Wallace moves out into the front. Mark Martin drops back into second, and Jeff Bodine runs in third place, followed by Darrell Waltrip. Now Bodine closes up on Mark Martin.
I can watch that start coming up, and I can watch Rusty laying back on Mark Martin a little bit. That might be the difference in experience just a little bit. Mark being more of a newer driver or less experience than Rusty has at tracks that are known to be race drivers' tracks.
Earnhardt to the pits now. Earnhardt rolls in. The crew is ready with right side tires laid out, set to go, and Jerry punches there.
Right side tires on Earnhardt's Chevrolet. They come in for their first scheduled pit stop. They came in about 6 or 7 laps early because they wanted to be very careful on fuel mileage here in Atlanta. He was leading a few years ago and ran out of gas twice. For this to happen today, he is down and away after right side rubber.
An ideal distance to the first pit stop would have been 60 or so laps, perhaps a bit more owing to the early yellow. So Earnhardt in on lap 57, leader lap 57, is just a touch early.
That pit stop was just over 14 seconds long. Interestingly, Earnhardt, you saw his big Chevrolet there. In May, the Chevy racers here are going to replace their Monte Carlos, which are biggish cars, with these new Luminous, smaller cars, more the size of the Pontiac that you see here with Rusty Wallace, who starts into the pit. They're going to have cars that are a little bit smaller come May.
Well, Rusty Wallace, the leader, comes off the track and rolls down into the pit area. Begins to slow down and come to a stop as Jeff Bodine goes into the lead. Let's go to the pits.
First scheduled pit stop for Rusty Wallace, the lead car. 58 laps complete, about 84 miles here at Atlanta, the 1.5-mile racetrack. Routine right side tires. Barry Dodson will pull the jack when at last the drop of fuel goes in the car. He's revving the motor. The jack is down. He's down and away. Great pit stop. 14.8 seconds. He's down and away.
Routine stop for Rusty Wallace. Jeff Bodine is the leader of the race. He picked the lead up as Wallace pulled into the pits, but Jeff Bodine in that car number 5 is already heading for the pit area. And that should shuffle the lead backwards to Darrell Waltrip now as Bodine comes in for what should be a routine stop for Bodine. Let's go to Jack.
And Jeff Bodine's crew goes to work, and they immediately go to the right side to change the tires. Meanwhile, they're cleaning the windshield, and indeed, they're going to check the left side tires. They deem that they're fine. Now the only holdup is the fuel going in. The signal has gone up, and Bodine is away very quickly and back into the hunt.
And as that stop was made, a problem occurred when the 9 car of Bill Elliott spun coming into his pit and went completely sideways. Sam Posey, you were looking down there when that happened.
Well, the first thing you got to ask yourself is that Bill's inability to really move that wheel fast. He was braking hard as he came in. The car got away from him. So, you know, this is where that arm injury could play a key role for him during the race. Bobby's shaking his head, you know. I think it's tough for him, don't you, Bobby?
Yes, it is. And if there's any deviation, he's just not capable of doing it for that sharp a turning.
The leader is this car, Darrell Waltrip, number 17, but he rolls down into the pits as well, and Brett Bodine will pick up the lead. Waltrip going just a few laps more, down to 61 laps before this stop. Jackaroo.
Darrell Waltrip hits the marks exactly, takes on the fuel, and again to right side rubber, and one of the crew members checks the left sides to make sure the wear is fine. They talk to Darrell over the radio, give him the high sign, and he is off and away with what looks to be the quickest stop thus far. Back to you.
A key point to make, of course, is that Bill Elliott did not manage to stop at his pit. He had to make another lap and has come back into the pits now. He almost ran over 4 or 5 of the crewmen who were waiting over the wall for him.
That really hurts. Now, did you notice as Darrell was in the pit, Sam and Paul, that they were really scrubbing that radiator screen off? Now, that's the temperature deal that we were talking about earlier. What they're getting off there is not the paper, but the rubber off of the other cars that are showing up there.
Brett Bodine, who was the leader, makes his stop as well. For report on Bill Elliott. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, gentlemen, Bill Elliott just came back down pit road a minute ago and made a right side tire change. Now, on his first attempt down pit road, he told the crew they just tapped the brakes easily. They locked up and spun the car nose first into this concrete pit wall. The front of the car has been bent in somewhat. It may cause a heating problem. That grill has been smashed in just a little bit, but he came back down this time and made a correct right side tire change. Gentlemen?
Terry Labonte, the number 11 car, has not yet stopped and does have the lead, followed by Harry Gant. Now, we've taken a look at pit stops in modern day, and they are incredibly quick. The well-coordinated crew.
Now look at this here. Look at the comparison between that one and this one. These people are really working hard and fast. It's become a science today.
Totally coordinated ballet as the leader, Terry Labonte, the number 11 car, comes in, makes his stop, and just a tick under 14 seconds. So under green flag, most of the field has now completed their stops. We'll be back with more from the Atlanta 500 after this.
Hey,
Yeah,
great stop.
yeah.
Terrific to roll that pit stop. That was just great.
Ben, be real careful about putting like that graphic you did in as current leader when you're running under green like that, because you got a new leader almost right away.
Yeah.
Well, Wilson, has Wilson stopped yet? Okay. Let's not forget to mark these with pit stops. Yeah, I want to see them up there so we can get them. It's good that they're doing it. What they're showing, oh no, now we're changing. Yeah, because Schrader's stopping.
Two stops for Schrader.
This would be a critical time to put this pyrometer thing on because they've measured these tires and they need to know early on.
Yeah, let's
tire
follow.
temperature.
Let's follow that tire story a little bit more. Hey, Jerry Punch,
Yes, sir.
why don't you measure track surface temperature too?
Wait a minute.
Schrader's. Jack Arute, you might take a look at Schrader. He has some sort of a problem. Oh, you got it there. Nice to see your smiling face.
Well, we only know what you know. We're talking the same guys we are. Franny, you comfortable with that? We're back at Atlanta International Raceway, and with that flurry of pit stops all made under the green, 70 laps now complete. The 55 car, Phil Parsons, picks up the lead. And here's a surprise for you. The second place car is now Sterling Marlin. And remember, he started back in last place, but Phil Parsons pulls down off the course, now coming into the pits for his stop. So he was able to carry a considerable distance, 70 laps, before rolling into the pits.
Interestingly, Phil is 31. His more famous brother, still more famous, Benny, who's 47, separated by 16 years, the exact same gap between Darrell Waltrip, who was 42, and his brother, Michael Waltrip, who is 26.
Good, fast pit stop for Phil, and incidentally, he is a young, good, nice race driver, Sam.
And now
Very
as the
nice
standings continue to shuffle, Kyle Petty, the 42 car, with that stop of Parsons, is being shown as the leader of the race. So these stops under green really scrambling the field. So theoretically, Bobby Unser, after you make a series of green stops, everybody, if the stops are done routinely, ought to filter back up to the position they were in before that series.
They certainly should, and so far we've been watching, and none of the lead cars, Paul, have been changing left side tires, which would be a big no-no during the, except for Kenny Schrader. We watched him do it a little bit ago, but nobody wants to change the left side tires because they really can should all come back out the same, although there's a little bit of difference right now.
Well, the pit stops under the green is also the opportunity to really showcase the precision work of these pit crews. They spend hour upon hour thinking out how they will stop and practicing those stops, and boy, does it pay off. Here is Kyle Petty closing up behind his dad, Richard Petty. Now remember,
this is Phil Parsons.
Or Phil Parsons. He looked like the Petty car there for a moment, didn't it? He started alongside of his father.
There's the Petty.
Let's go down to the pits and Jerry Punch.
Well, gentlemen, the critical calculation after the first green flag pit stop is not laps run or fuel consumption. It's tire wear and tire temperature. This device I'm holding in my hand, all the crews use, it's called a tire pyrometer. This stainless steel probe is pushed in a tire that came off the car. This is the right front tire from the Rusty Wallace car. It will push it in all along the surface of the tire. It will read a temperature on the meter. This tire ran about 225 to 235 degrees. That's perfect for the right front tire. If it would begin to read 260, possibly 270, the tire could explode and cause a problem. Now, all the crews are using this, but today NASCAR went one further. They're allowing an onboard infrared sensor beneath the hood of the Dale Earnhardt car as a test. That's the only car that has it. It's relayed to a box in the cockpit. Earnhardt can sit and watch this temperature rise on the right front tire. NASCAR considering that down the road for possible safety to keep those tires from blowing and to keep drivers from being injured in the future. Gentlemen?
It's interesting. If you wonder what they inflate these tires to, there's Kyle Petty there. It's 55 pounds for the left front, 75 pounds for the right front, 55 pounds for the left rear, and 70 pounds for the right rear. So there's a different inflation for each tire to balance the car perfectly.
And these are all bias slide tires now, not radial tires. So that's the reason, one of the reasons they run such a high amount of air pressure.
Well, Kyle Petty, number 42, runs at the front of the field. Dick Trickle in the 84 car is now in second place, and then Dale Earnhardt is riding in third, followed by Rusty Wallace and Darrell Waltrip to round out the top five. Now, Saturday, ABC's Professional Bowlers Tour with the King Louis Open, followed by ABC's Wide World of Sports, featuring the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, a grueling trek in ice and snow pitting the teamwork of man and dog against the elements of the Alaskan wilderness. You'll see it all, and including the 90-meter ski jump world title. That's next Saturday on ABC Sports.
Of course, I was up there in Alaska, Paul, as you know. I just got back from the Iditarod. That is an absolutely epic and magnificent event set against the scenery that is probably the most beautiful possibly in our entire country. And I hope, I very much urge everybody to stay tuned next Saturday for that. I think it can be terrific.
Sam, I'll certainly watch it. You can bet on that. I really admire those people.
Bobby, they've right.
Back at the Atlanta 500, watching a battle for the lead between Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace. Earnhardt, the 3-car, Wallace, the 27. Now, NASCAR has altered their scoring. They were carrying Kyle Petty in the 42 car out in front, but then they decided he was in reality a lap down and moved Earnhardt up into the top spot. He's now being challenged by Rusty Wallace, who in the past few seconds has pulled up right onto Earnhardt's bumper.
Well, not only pulled up on him, Paul, he's working on him pretty hard. In fact, about the only time he's not working on him is when he's trying to get the air in his radiator to keep it running cool. He just works that traffic, working around, and it would appear if you had to watch the two of them that Rusty might have just a bit of an edge speed-wise on Dale Earnhardt.
The trick, of course, on the short tracks is not only be aggressive, but be just as smooth as you can be. Anticipate 2-3 corners ahead how fast you're going to catch a slower car and know exactly where you want to catch him to your best advantage. Dale Earnhardt is an absolute master at that.
We're not very far into the race right now, but if you'll notice in the turns, like with Dale as he goes down into number 3 turn, he'll come down almost to the white line. Just sometimes he almost touches it. What that means is he's looking for dry pavement, Paul. He's trying to get it where nobody's laid much rubber and where they've not spilled any oil yet.
Dale Earnhardt, the black number 3, the leader of this race. Now, when Dale Earnhardt was born, his dad Ralph was out dirt track racing. The 3-time Winston Cup champion always thought that he would in fact be a racer for as long as he can remember.
Racing was racing. That's all there ever was. And I never played sports in school. I wrestled a little bit in the 8th and 9th grade, and never played football or anything like that. And I've always come coming home from school, helping Dad on the race cars, or getting ready to go to a race or something. And never really thought about anything else.
And there's the 11 car, Terry Labonte, running considerably off the pace as he came down the main straight. The engine let go in a puff of smoke, and Labonte, who was running in 6th, is now running substantially slower and headed for the garage area.
Remember that Labonte was one of the last to make his pit stops under the green. I think he was trying to stretch his fuel as far as he could. He was very successful at that in Daytona in one of the 125-mile races. His man who calculates the fuel, Ronnie Doss, made a good calculation. Jerry Punch now is with Junior Johnson down there in the Labonte pit.
While the car is sitting here in the pits, Junior's going to reach back and turn the water hose on. They're trying to put water in the radiator. Nascar had just come over and told Junior Johnson the car is losing water, and then it began to bellow smoke. Now, Terry Labonte radioed in and said, hey, the car is still running. I'm not really sure what the problem is. They are trying to get the water on as they service the car in the pits. They wouldn't get a comment with Junior. Junior, what's the problem? Did I tell you what the problem might be?
Well, a while ago we got paper stuff on the grill and got it kind of hot, so we think that might be what's wrong with it.
Well, overheating, maybe that's the only problem. They're going to keep putting water in it. They're losing a lot of valuable time here under green.
But Terry Labonte was running in 6th, but of course he's dropping back through the field rapidly. Back to the fight for the lead. Dale Earnhardt continues to try and hold off a charging Rusty Wallace, who is now set up right on Earnhardt's rear bumper. But look at the comparative styles through the corners. Earnhardt hauls that car down just as low as he can. Wallace takes the high side.
Did you notice when as soon as Earnhardt went down, Rusty Wallace went up high, Paul, and you saw some smoke come off of Dale Earnhardt's right rear. Now, what Rusty has recognized is that Dale is running maybe just a little bit loose in the rear end, and so when he runs high, he just kind of pulls Dale's rear end around or up towards the outer wall, makes his right rear tire get hotter. Now, Rusty looks like this right there is a real good example. Now, look at the smoke come off of it. Now, there's a perfect example of what he's doing. Rusty Wallace is causing Dale Earnhardt to loosen up the right rear. Now
and Wallace goes for the lead. Can he hold on as he forges his way past the 3 car of Earnhardt? Wallace comes up high again. The Earnhardt car continues to blister on that right rear, at least kick some smoke off that right rear tire. And Rusty Wallace decidedly now takes the lead over Dale Earnhardt. 94 laps complete, 328 laps the scheduled distance, and Wallace is back in front.
These two men will race for the pure joy of racing. Rusty Wallace likes to lead. He's a younger driver, of course, than Dale Earnhardt by quite a bit. He likes to be out front. Earnhardt a little cannier, but he does not like to be humiliated by having Rusty Wallace blow by him like that, and I think you'll see him stay as close as he can if he can cool his tires down a little bit, Bobby.
Best example we've ever seen, I think, of somebody finding a weakness on another driver and taking 100% full advantage of it with no mercy. Beautiful job.
To the pits, Jackaroo.
Well, Paul Page, in an era when you're very concerned about weight, especially with these race cars, this car, as Sam Posey told you, his name's Whitney, but it's overweight. It's 60 to 70 pounds over the maximum allowable weight. So in a time when you try to get it down to the 3,600 pounds, they're a little fat guy out there running.
Well, of course, weight, as Jack well knows, is a very crucial factor in racing of all kinds. These cars may be very heavy. They weigh about 3,500 pounds without fuel or driver. But still, the relative weight of one car to another is very important. And indeed, there's some people that look to the day, and there's Labonte back on the track. They look to the day that the weight rule will include the driver. Because right now, in some sense, a bigger driver like a Buddy Baker or an A.J. Foyt is penalized a little by his own weight. And a smaller driver like, say, Jeff Bodine has an advantage of sorts. So we may be seeing that rule. It's present in some other forms of racing, not, of course, at Indianapolis.
Well, it sure didn't appear as if the problem Labonte was fighting had been fixed. He went back out, but smoking just a bit. Let's now go down to the Earnhardt pit and Jerry Punch.
I'm with Richard Childress, the car owner for Dale Earnhardt. And Richard, one of the problems inherent with the Chevrolet Monte Carlo has been the lack of downforce on the rear of the car. Now, here at Atlanta, it's very apparent because your car, the Earnhardt car, is slipping and sliding in the corners. What can you do about it?
Well, there isn't much we can do about it. You know, Dale just has to drive a lot harder, you know, in this situation. And, you know, we got the car about as good as we can get it. You know, we'll try to tighten him up a little more, but you can't get too tight here at Atlanta. Once we get the Lumina, that should fix this problem, we hope.
talking about the new Chevrolet Lumina, which will be allowed to run in NASCAR in about 60 days, come Talladega in early May.
And Richard Childress and the Chevrolet boys are looking forward for that appearance. So there's still, of course, questions anytime you have a new car come up. Theoretically, it should be better.
Well, of course, you wonder why they don't race the Lumina right now. The reason is they're waiting for the Lumina to be introduced into the showroom. Apparently, Darrell Waltrip is going to be testing one here tomorrow. The testing is underway. They're just not legally able to run them yet.
Because it hasn't been introduced, it's not really a stock car just yet. It's still a prototype.
Well, of course, we've always in the past issued these disclaimers about the fact that these cars are not really Pontiacs and Chevrolets and so forth, Oldsmobiles, but in fact are cars that resemble those street cars. The chassis are built purely for racing. The suspension is purely for racing, but the engine block and the bodies bear a very close similarity to the stock machine.
And the bodies, Sam, they really look like a stock car as you look at the bodies, and even though they're just body panels, they really are body panels from the real cars, and that's kind of important.
Well, they're sort of body panels from the real cars. Bobby, these cars look about as much like an original passenger car as you look today, the way you looked in your 20s.
They look
altered.
Pretty stock at this distance as we watch Rusty Wallace, but if you get up close to them, there is no question they are definitely a thoroughbred racing car. Wallace is out in front of the field. The second place car is Dale Earnhardt, and sitting about 6 seconds back and riding in third place, driving a very careful race, and one that puts one in memory of the Daytona 500 when he was so conservative, is Darrell Waltrip running in third place. But out in front, it is Rusty Wallace.
Boy, you know, a great call, Paul, to mention the stealthy Mr. Waltrip at this point, running third. Yes, sir. He could be an immense factor here. He's won this race twice, won twice at Atlanta, and we haven't heard the last of him yet today.
Well, it made you wonder if he didn't change some of the style of Winston Cup racing in that driving that very conservative, non-showy kind of race, ducking in whenever he had a chance to draft and thereby conserve fuel, if he hasn't been introducing a new style to the sport.
Well, you know, as we've been talking about the changing of the guard, of course, with the younger guys coming in, that's made Darrell Waltrip all of a sudden one of the old guard. I mean, it's made him into, you know, a really respected figure. And I think the fact that he tried to stretch that mileage at Daytona, something there's no way he would have done 10 years ago.
Absolutely,
you know,
Sam.
I mean, that's a change of character, isn't it, Bobby?
Yes, it is. It's a total change of character for him. I think it's made a lot smarter race driver out of him, but he would have been like Rusty Wallace not too many years back, say 10 years ago. He was really full of giddy up and go all the time.
Well, you know, he's aging, that's one thing, but he also now has a most wonderful daughter, 18-month-old Jessica, and I think, you know, when you have a kid in the household, all of a sudden, some of the focus goes off you, and really, for all these years, the focus at Darrell Waltrip's household has always been on Darrell Waltrip, and maybe, in a sense, that was good, in a sense, maybe it's better a little bit to take the pressure off him.
Rusty Wallace has worked his way past A.J. Foyt as he continues to overhaul the field, and Dale Earnhardt continues in pursuit. The 32-year-old Wallace, the winner at Rockingham, has 11 Winston Cup victories to his career credit. And let's take a look now at this leaderboard. In fact, let's look at as much of the field as we can. Wallace, followed by Earnhardt, Waltrip, then the Bodine brothers run together. Then Harry Gant runs in 6th, followed by Kulwicki, Wilson, Speed, Kyle Petty running in 10th place. We take a look as deep as we can in this field at the moment. Michael Waltrip, good race. Dick Trickle was up at the front of the field, and Terry Labonte, of course, still running but dropping backwards down through the field. Bobby Hillen, we saw him a little bit earlier. Dale Jarrett, another second-generation driver. Rick Mast, who's been doing quite well this year. And down through the remainder of this field here in the Atlanta 500 from Atlanta International Raceway. 107 laps are now complete. 328 laps, the scheduled distance that make up the 500 miles. We'll be back.
Yeah.
Was it me or was that middle?
Yes. hear me, Ben? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Was it me or was that center graphic redundant? Did you notice? What's that? Did you notice that one of those panels redundant? Okay, good.
Where's Helen Ruther?
He was in the...
He's out. Helen's out?
Okay.
Is Hillen still running? What position? Is shifting just a bit. Richard Petty anticipating a stop, but for the moment at least, he's out in front. The man who always looks to do just a little bit better.
He's a fine race driver. Been around a long time, Paul. And as you watch his groove, of course, he'll be coming in the pits pretty quick, but as you watch his groove as compared to like Dale Earnhardt or Rusty Wallace, he gets right up against the wall. Now he's slowing down coming in the pits, so we're off time a little bit on that one.
So Petty comes to the pits, and in a surprise move at the same time, the Earnhardt car rolled into the pits as well. As you see, there goes Richard Petty past Earnhardt, and in fact, they almost touched coming out. Earnhardt changed right side rubber. Let's go to Jackaroo.
And they're changing right side rubber on Richard Petty's car as well, and it was a very close quarters racing here on pit road as Petty pulled in and Earnhardt pulled out. Petty, much maligned for the last couple of years, winless since July 4th several years ago when he scored 201. He's running strong today, and he is off and away with a fine stop led by his cousin Dale Inman. Gentlemen.
So Richard Petty makes his routine stop after a few laps running in the lead. Sterling Marlin should pick up the lead as a result of that stop by Richard Petty. We'll be back right after these messages.
Turning in, though.
Ben, can you hear me on the talkback? Never mind.
Go ahead, I can hear you now.
Never mind. Doesn't matter.
Earnhardt's last pit stop. Here's the right rear tire came off Earnhardt's car. We might want to show that for a minute. An unscheduled stop for Earnhardt.
Yeah.
Possibly going. He thought it might have been going down. Yeah, that's the right rear tire. The tire in the pits here.
Right here. Okay.
For the unscheduled stop at Earnhardt, this tire right here. Right here, the right rear tire came off. See that hole in the tire? When Earnhardt got sideways up there, the tire was going down.
Okay, what's the story behind that tire we're seeing? Okay, but what is the story on the tire we're seeing on the screen of the replay?
International Raceway as the 16 car of Larry Pearson came to a stop on the edge of the course, and just a second ago he spun up the rear tires trying to get going. He's kind of precarious down on the edge of the apron on the racetrack, and they're going to have to send some equipment out and bring him in, and so the caution flag flies over the speedway for the second time of the day.
The rear tires turn, the front tires don't, Paul. That means he's got some wheel bearings locked up in the front. Just wouldn't move. That's probably the right front wheel bearing that's burning out.
Now, moments ago, you saw Richard Petty come in for a pit stop as he was the leader of the race, and it was a very close situation, Sam Posey.
It certainly was. You notice here on the lower right of the screen, a tire that was placed out there for Dale Earnhardt. Petty just missed that as he came in. It was a very fraught situation, to say the least. You see Petty coming in here. Earnhardt now starting out right behind him. Only inches separated the two cars, and I think this illustrates the danger that the pit man, who you see going out with the tires there and not able to move quickly in their own defense, the danger that they are in when these situations develop as quickly and unexpectedly as this one did.
These pits here at Atlanta are particularly narrow as well. So now with the caution on the speedway, Ken Schrader is the leader. Rusty Wallace is in second place, and Dick Trickle is being displayed as in third place, but Ken Schrader, taking advantage of the caution flag, locks up the brakes as he rolls to a stop in his pit, ready for some service, and Jerry punches there.
Kenny Schrader comes in for his routine stop. He is the lead car here at Atlanta. Right side tires for Schrader. Schrader driving a USAC midget event last night. He finished third, coming back in a much heavier stock car today, and likewise having a good afternoon thus far. Now left side tires going in the car. The Rick Hendrick owned car, the Chevrolet tandem of 3 cars in Rigon. Schrader, this same car we're seeing here, sat on the pole at Daytona at over 196 miles an hour, and he is here at Atlanta running up front. 4 tires, and he's away.
He's a good personal race driver, Paul. That guy can drive any kind of race car that was ever built. Did you notice when he came into the pit, his rear locked up. They need to adjust their brake balance on that a little bit. I'll bet Kenny does some thinking about that for the next race.
Richard Petty, car number 33, has dropped back to the bottom of the top 10 as a result of these stops on the race course. Richard Petty, been 131 races since Richard last won a Winston Cup race. He rolls now into the pits, taking advantage, as so many others, of the caution to come down in and get service from his crew. And Jack Arute is there.
And once again, Richard Petty's crew goes to the right side, but under this caution, everybody wants to change the left sides as well. The only team that went the longest on left side rubber thus far so far was that Kenny Schrader team. Remember, they changed right sides only during the last green flag stop. Under this caution now, everybody will get 4 new tires, and hopefully that'll change things around. But for Petty, this was a mandatory stop, because if the leaders are going for new rubber all the way around, everybody has to, regardless of when you last took them on.
Yeah, you really have no choice whatsoever. Richard Petty rolls back into the action. The caution still flies. His last win, July 4th, 1984, in the Firecracker at Daytona International. Now, despite that streak, Richard Petty truly believes that the next win will come.
I always feel like that, you know, if we lose this week, that we're going to win again next week. And I've never lost that boyhood dream, or whatever you want to call it, because, you know, we've been doing this 30 years, and that's the way we used to do it. You know, I mean, we'd go through stages and win 3 or 4 races, and then we'd go through stages and crash in 3 or 4. But you felt like that, you know, the next race was going to be the one to get you. And again, it's been 4 years since we've done it, but I can't believe that you was winning up to that time, and just all of a sudden, there's no more wins. There's got to be something involved in the deal where there's nothing else. We luck into one now, as many as we run. And so we'll go home and say, okay, we'll, you know, work a little harder, and maybe we'll get luckier next week. So I guess that's what we look at.
Richard Petty now rolls slowly around this course with these pit stops under the caution. Darrell Waltrip is being indicated for the moment at least as the leader, but they continue to shuffle the standings. 136 laps are complete as we are now under the second caution period of the day. The 16 car off the edge of the course. Here are the lap leaders to this point. Mark Martin jumped out in front, and then Rusty Wallace for a bit, Jeff Bodine for a lap, and then Waltrip took over for a couple of laps. Back to young Brett Bodine, Terry Labonte, Kenny Schrader, Parsons, Trickle, Earnhardt, all adding their names onto the lap leaders here at Atlanta International, with 136 laps complete in a 500-mile race, the 30th annual Atlanta 500. Caution on the race course. We'll be back. That's okay. This talkback's just not working at all, is it? I'm going to talk on it right now. Apparently you're not hearing me. No, that was on the air.
He's talking about on the talkback. Do you hear him?
I'm talking on the talkback.
He's talking on the talkback now. Do you guys hear him? You want him to sing?
I think you're impressive. He's getting into it.
Sing. Say it again, Phil. Quick sing. Sam.
Yeah. Those guys are talking on the
Talkback.
air. Can we still get Labonte? I don't want to leave the race without that interview. We're going to have some. Franny, are you right? I knew it. I knew you would be.
I said I'm on my way to the Elliott people. They had the hoods up on the car. They had a problem.
Here in the Elliott pits, maybe you couldn't hear me. Okay.
Yes. We're back at Atlanta International Raceway. I'm Paul Page with Sam Posey, Bobby Unser, Jerry Punch, and Jack Arute. Caution over the race course, the second of the day. No serious accident, just moving a car out of position, stalled on the race course. The leader is this 27 car of Rusty Wallace. Ken Schrader, the 25 car, is in second place. Dick Trickle runs in third, and Jeff Bodine is now in fourth. Let's go down to Bill Elliott's pit and Jerry Punch.
Well, Bill Elliott made a pit stop just a moment ago and came in. They had the hood up on the car, and what the problem is they are getting ready to bring him back down pit road is the toe end. The front tires, instead of facing straight ahead, you see Ernie Elliott now, the older brother, Bill's oldest brother, out on pit road there with the big number 9 pit board. He is getting ready to bring Bill back down pit road. The problem with the toe end, when he made that spin here on the first pit stop when the brakes locked up and he tapped the pit wall, it bent the left front tie rod. The left front tire moved in, and that will wear the tires completely out on the car as they get ready to come down pit road. Here is Elliott now bringing the car to a halt, and they will raise the hood once again, give him a drink of water. He will rev the motor up, and they are going to try to get this thing corrected so he can drive the car. If he don't get it corrected, then it will just wear the tires off of it and possibly blow a tire and stick him back in the wall. And you know, we began the show with that left wrist still in a cast. They can't take any chances here on the defending Winston Cup champion.
Well, I think the thing that's making this afternoon so long for Bill Elliott, of course, is that these misfortunes are being played out in front of a Georgia crowd. The people from his hometown, Dawsonville, just up the road from here, are here in force. And to have a humiliating spin for whatever the reasons were in the pits right in front of the main grandstands and now be having this kind of problem, it's hardly the way to begin the defense of your championship.
It is certainly hard to adjust a car properly right in the pits like that. But maybe it'll be enough. Everybody will see how hard he tried and what a good job they did to get it back to him.
Yeah, they certainly have to applaud his perseverance. He is out there continuing to try. He's nowhere in contention in the race at all. But they are learning something about the car, learning something happens in the late going in this race that has already proven to be a little tough on some of the cars, perhaps they will, in fact, be there.
Well, a question I'd like to put very quickly to Jerry Punch down there is, Jerry, can he, Bill Elliott, re-injure his arm by being in as long a race as this? Is this maybe an ill-timed move to try to come back this soon?
Well, the concern was that, 2 weeks ago he tried to run some laps at Rockingham. The vibration on the steering wheel, the vibration into the bone where both those bones were broken, we saw earlier, was unbearable. He couldn't bear the pain. He ran about 20 laps before they got a yellow, and he came in and put Jody Ridley in the car, and he was just totally worn out. He couldn't bear the effort of being in the car. Now, today, he has got 5 weeks behind him since he broke that bone, and you see those bones there where they're broken. Both the ulna and radius were fractured across. They have been set. They've had 5 weeks to mend. There is a callus formation around that fracture site that hasn't solidified somewhat. However, if he were to take a hard lick, the first thing Bill has to remember is get that left hand off the steering wheel. That's why he broke it in the first place. The left hand bent back underneath him as he slammed that third turn wall at Daytona. His body came up against the wrist and snapped both bones. So if he were to lose the car, he's to get that left hand down on his lap as quickly as possible. Yes, the answer to your question, he could re-injure it, he could re-break it, or it could be a severe injury and take a long time to heal.
Bill Elliott stays in the fight, but he must be very, very careful. They begin now to stack up behind the pace car. Should be just over a lap back to the green flag. Rusty Wallace is the leader. Second place car belongs to Ken Schrader. It's that number 25 machine. As they begin now to pull high over the slower cars on this course. Ken Schrader, tremendous experience as a race driver. He started as an open-wheel racer, even back at age 7. It was only after a successful open-wheel career with the United States Auto Club that he came over to NASCAR.
I never had a good chance. I mean, I was going to be a racer when I was 3. My dad took a post and stuck it in the ground in concrete and tied a cable to the one end to the post and tied the other end to the go-kart. My mom would take me out there and strap me in the go-kart, and they'd fire it up, and she'd sit in the lawn chair and read a book while I'd go around circles till I run out of gas. So ever since then, we've just been racing something.
Ken Schrader lined up in second place behind Rusty Wallace right now. The 84 car of Dick Trickle should sit in third. Then Jeff Bodine in fourth. His brother Brett in fifth. Richard Petty sixth and sixth. Rick Wilson seventh. Dale Earnhardt eighth. Darrell Waltrip ninth. And Sterling Martin is sitting in 10th place as the pace car begins to pull away from the front row now, Bobby Hunter.
Yes, they are. Just a moment on Bill Elliott. He just went up to Indianapolis the other day and got an electronic bone mender for his wrist, all to try to help it heal quicker. No more on that because we're getting ready to come down for the start. Everybody's lined up 2 abreast. The fast cars on the outside.
Bobby Unser medical term, electronic bone mender.
Right.
All right, the green flag flies again. And Dale
right there by Kenny Schrader.
Plus, you see a Chevrolet and you see a Ford doing battle. Kind of neat to see both of them. And they're both handling good. They're both running well. And sometimes we've been hearing, well, the Fords have an advantage here. Hey, right now, Kenny Schrader's got the advantage. He's in a Chevrolet.
Tremendous little fight for the lead between Ken Schrader and Rusty Wallace. Schrader, the 25 Chevrolet, the 27 car, that belongs to Rusty Wallace. Third place is Rick Wilson, who sits back just a bit. But a nice fight for the lead here on this race at 154 laps of the scheduled distance of 328 laps, or 500 miles. Pit stops have been complete. You get a shot there. 25 cars, he gets a little high, and again you see that tire smoke pour off the tires as they try desperately to keep that from happening. It not only means they're losing control for the second there, but it also means that they are wearing down that tire. Now let's go to the pits and Jerry Punch in the scoring area, eh, Jerry?
Well, Paul, we're inside NASCAR scoring central here, inside the racetrack. You see all these young men and women sitting behind this desk. Well, they are each have an individual scorecard representing one race car. Now, NASCAR's chief scorer, Morris Metcalf, here keeps account of every single score, every single lap, and every time their car completes 10 laps, they will hold up their clipboard to an overall score down here, and they will keep those laps in tow. There's the number 16 being held up. That car just completed 10 laps. And what they're writing down, and we'll pan around to our left and show you, is every time their car comes by, they will write down the number you see on this clock right here. That's how they score the cars. Each time their car comes by the start-finish line, they'll write down the corresponding number, and that's how they score each car here in NASCAR.
On board with Sterling Martin as he comes, or Marlin, as he comes around the course, but he's going to see a yellow here very shortly because it's going to come out to caution on the race course as Ernie Irvan lost control coming off of the second corner and did a fast spin down off the bank. The caution does fly, but Ernie keeps the car rolling on the backstretch. So the rest of the field will now begin to slow as we have our third caution of the day. There's the 2 car of Ernie Irvan and Bill Elliott. Sam Posey, you were watching when this happened. You could see that the right side tires are down. And you say Bill Elliott was awfully close, you thought.
I just squeezed by. So that probably will give Elliott a little bit of confidence in himself. You survive a close brush by a piece of good driving like that, and that pumps you back up again.
So with a race average to this point of 152.9 miles an hour, we're running on record pace. But the caution is out. We'll be back. Ben? If we get a quiet time at any point, NASCAR did a couple of rule changes that they announced today that either Jack or Jerry probably ought to do something on.
Earnhardt's right here. He should get his lap back.
They're closer.
Tips are not that wide here, you know.
All right, Earnhardt's going to come back in and be in the back of the pack anyway. Is Schrader coming back in? Look at him. Is that him?
Yep.
Schrader's back in. Take a look here, Drew.
He's going to get the other side.
Not much sense. Didn't make any sense at all.
It's just a penalty.
Huh?
Penalty.
For what?
And I can tell you what that penalty is. If you can shoot the white line down in turns 1 and 2.
Look at here.
They told all the drivers at the drivers' meeting that whether it was caution or green, they had to stay below that white line. If they got up over that white line and violated what we call the blend rule in kart, they would be brought in for a 15-second penalty. That's what happened to Schrader.
Why don't we have you summarize that, Jack, when we get back? We'll talk. We'll have that having happened.
They actually penalized him to the back of the field.
Right.
Are you going to use it? We're back under caution at Atlanta International Raceway. I'm Paul Page with Bobby Unser, Sam Posey, Jack Arute, and Jerry Punch. Stops now being made under this caution period. One of those stopping the 25 car of Kenny Schrader. Now, take a look at this action. The crew is finishing up the stop at this point, and he's ready to roll back onto the race course itself. Now, as he does so, he gets involved in a white line penalty. Now, basically, the rule says you have to stay down below the white line as you are exiting the pit area. Now, let's take a look and see whether or not he came high. Well, there's what NASCAR was concerned about, Bobby Unser. You know a lot about that.
That's right, Paul. And the only reason Kenny did it, he just plain wasn't faking, and he just drove right out on the track because there was no traffic there.
That's not dissimilar from what got you in so much trouble at Indy, is it?
I wouldn't do it again if I had a choice.
Well, in IndyCar racing, that'd be the blend rule. It's a white line penalty, and as a result, NASCAR brought him in for a stop-and-go penalty, which effectively put him at the back of the pack.
And I'll bet he doesn't do it again either.
In this case, though, the matter was resolved moments after it happened. In your case, the matter took, what, 6 months to resolve?
Until October.
Damn, that wasn't bad.
No, but I think that's incidentally greatly to NASCAR's credit. They have a system of checks and balances. They administer the punishments as the infractions occur, and as a result, now everybody can enjoy the race from here on. It's been dealt with, and the matter is cleaned up.
His penalty went right to the back of the pack. He didn't lose a lap. He really didn't lose an awful lot as fast as he's going today.
So we're under caution here at Atlanta International. Now, Next Sunday, ABC Sports presents one of the most engaging personalities in sports, Tim McCarver, in a series of eye-opening experiences. We'll see scuba diving, the feeding of stingrays, and hang gliding. Tim shows us ordinary people participating in extraordinary activities. It all comes your way next Sunday on ABC Sports. And Ken Schrader brings the 25 car back into the pits yet another time, Jerry Puck.
Well, the reason being, Paul, they have nothing to lose whatsoever. They've been penalized. They are already at the rear of the field, so why not come on back in, put 4 fresh tires on, take your time fueling the car. You have nothing to lose. No one else is behind you, so now he's down and away. Fresh rubber, ready for the restart.
That was a smart move, especially considering he's back of the field anyway, and he can really catch up to the back of the field before they come around and take the green. Another thing I just want to make a note of is that Rusty Wallace, I said, was in a Ford a little while ago. It's wrong. He's in a Pontiac, Paul.
Rusty Wallace in his Pontiac out in front of this field under the caution. As we are lining up and anticipating the green flag shortly, the pace car begins to accelerate just away. It is the 27 car of Rusty Wallace, actually lined up second in the serial, that will be the leader as we come across the line. Brett Bodine, the 15 car, is in second. His brother Jeff and the 5 car runs in third. And Rick Wilson, white yellow number 4, runs in 4th place. The green flag comes out once again. Rusty Wallace high alongside A.J. Foyt, stretches out alone. Wallace, 4 car, Greg Sachs just a bit in front of him. He takes advantage of the draft off the back of Sachs's machine. Comes down to the inside and just nudges Sachs up to the high side, and now has clear sailing ahead of him.
Sachs has really not been that close running up in front, and I think he just went down and gave him a little tap and said, hey, boy, I'm here. I need to get by.
Every now and then you've got to remind everyone else you're the leader, and the race course belongs to you. Obligation of the pass is with the overtaking car, one of the unspoken rules.
Rusty Wallace in his Pontiac is moving on. He's really been hooked up all day today.
Number 15 car, Brett Bodine, is in second place. And as they come to the line this time, look at that! Brett Bodine loses it. Everybody buys 3 to this point, but no, that's going to end it. He comes up. Everybody stacks up behind him, including Kulwicki, who is right there. The caution comes out on the Speedway at the halfway point. We were exactly 250 miles, and then Brett Bodine lost the back end. And everybody, Kulwicki keeps it under power. The 7 car moves forward now. Several of those. Bodine himself is under power.
But you know, Paul, it had to be trouble because he was in the first third of the pack. There were just too many cars behind him all to find their way back past him on this relatively narrow track, and those guys were coming through the turn too, which made it hard for them to see ahead.
Hard place right there. Coming on to turn 4, it gets narrow right there. I think that's about the only downfall this beautiful racetrack of Atlanta has, and it's just squeezed down when they have wrecks. It just seems like they all pile into there.
All right, let's go back and take a look at this situation again. There's the 15 car of Brett Bodine. Bobby Unser?
He's the one that got loose, and he just started getting looser and looser as time went on. And you start seeing the smoke come off his tires. Now the car on the outside, that's sucking him out. In other words, sucking the rear end of his car high, and you can see the car getting a little bit sideways there.
That's Greg Sachs on the outside.
Yes. Now you see Greg pull away. That really was pulling the 15 car up. Now he's totally loose. For all practical purposes, he's out of control.
The car, Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong, suddenly just feels very light when that happens. Almost as if you drive off of dry pavement onto ice and then control is gone until it really slows down and you get it back under control. But here's where the worst part happened. He slid back up onto the course in front of everybody else.
Of course, he's hoping during all this time. He doesn't really have a lot of control because it's like on ice, the way you described, Paul. The other cars, really in this particular case, couldn't tell which way he was going to go because first he started down, then he started up. The cars didn't know where to go. And at this kind of weight, the car's weight, and the kind of speed they have here, they really can't stop or deviate all of that much.
All right, they still work with some of the damaged cars here. Let's take a look. This is outside the back window of Sterling Marlin's car as they came through this situation, Bobby.
He's right behind the number 3 car. Or excuse me, right ahead of him, I'm sorry. Dale Earnhardt. Now let's see what he sees here.
have to look way back up. Back with the smoke.
Way back, you can see him coming down to the inside of the field. And of course, when you lose it, you begin to slow down, even though it doesn't seem like it so much. Well, we've actually got 2 cars in the situation then. This is really a 2-car accident, which is something that we weren't aware of from the first pictures that we had of this. So 2 different cars involved in an accident. We'll do a little sorting here and try to make sense of both situations with just over half of the distance completed at Atlanta International.
Okay, who was the other car that spun much in the front of the pack? What? Not had it. What? Spun?
Now, we want to know. In an accident, do a little sorting here and try to make sense of both situations with just over half of the distance completed at Atlanta International.
Okay, who was the other car that spun much in the front of the pack? What? Not had it. What? Spun?
Now, we want to know, there are 2 different accidents
there. There's a second accident at the front of the pack. 3 rows up. Another guy nosing in against the wall.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But the 15 car, unless we just saw a different perspective.
Chick, guys, if you can get us a what happened there. The replay reveals from Marlin's car a second machine spinning
that was ahead of the accident that we're talking about. This is the car. Bill Elliott's car.
These are the guys involved?
No, damn it. I'm wrong. Sorry. Forget it.
One didn't seem to have to do with the other, though.
No, it did not.
Lost all of it.
No, not at all.
You know, when Sachs pulled wide, it just sucked the rear end right out from under. This car did. It seems like.
That's Brett Bodine who started.
Yeah. He just got his rear end touched right up from under. For what?
Well, he may be damaged. You know, that's Kulwicki's car, Bobby. He may be leaking stuff.
If you can show us what happened to that last one while we're horsing around here, it'd be nice. Because, well, there were 2 cars in that last one. And
what we want to see is the in-car camera looking back up the track from Sterling Marlin.
Or some other shot where
there's another car in this thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, and carry it longer.
We still haven't identified something.
Wait a minute. Ben, carry it longer this time. Carry the replay longer. You'll see smoke coming up on the right side of the screen. We're back live at Atlanta International. We're under caution as a result of an accident. Took 6 different cars to the wall. Some of those may be able to restart, but the safety equipment still down on the exit of the 4th turn as they now do what cleanup they can, get all the particles and debris off of the race course. Now Jeff Bodine, or excuse me, Brett Bodine. Jeff Bodine's on the course. Brett Bodine, they're working on his car, trying to get it back in shape, and Jerry Punch is there.
Well, Paul, I just chatted across to Brett Bodine and asked him if someone's happening. He looked at me, pointed objectively, and said no. Went in the corner and he just shot to the side. So apparently he went in the corner and the tires gave up and the car just shot sideways on him. As you see, they're working on the car right now. The problem they've got is wearing this crunch on every corner, but most importantly, the left rear corner where you're trying to fuel the car. The fuel couple has been crunched back in against the fuel cell. They are beating that back out, trying to hook the rear deck down with some elastic bands. They have tried to beat the other fenders away, but it's going to be a long afternoon for young Bodine driving here at Atlanta.
got to get that body work up and away so it does not interfere with the tire as it comes around. He's cut it down in just no time. Now let's take a look again. The red car to the inside, the 15 machine, is Brett Bodine. Break sack to the outside. And Bodine's car just began to lighten up.
Well, the reason is, you see, they almost touched right there, Paul, and now you see brake sack pull away, and that takes the rear end and causes a vacuum to it, or the whole car, and watch the rear end just start sucking out to the right, to the high side of the track. Now you see the smoke coming off the right rear. Theoretically, he's done right now. With all the other cars making the air act in weird ways, he has no control whatsoever. So whatever is happening now strictly is up to the race car, not him.
Well, Rick Wilson and Jeff Bodine both got passed during that spin.
Here's where the hooker comes. See, that's a roll back up. The other car's trying to only stay down. You see the car's trying to turn down now. Now they're all going into a funnel area, which ends right there at the wall.
Up in front of Al Kulwicki and the rest. So, as a result of that, we do have caution to get on the speedway. They still are picking up the debris coming off of the fourth turn, trying to get the track ready to go racing. Of course, accidents are a factor of any form of racing. Let's go back to 1964 at Daytona and Bill Fleming's call.
There's another car smashing into the wall. This is Leroy Yarborough in 70. You can recognize that one. Glass all over the track. And there's flames underneath the hood of that car. We're going to try to get to him. They got the fire wagon out because we can see the flames licking around the engine mount. Another car. Wow, when is this going to stop? That's car 24. That's Rod Eulenfeld spinning out, and now somebody's trying to get Leroy Yarborough out of that car. Look at the flames under there. Can't recognize. There's Freddie Lorenzen in the white pants with a dark jacket going over there. And the flames are licking at him, and he's in his, actually fastened in there in a seatbelt. And they've got him out. He's out of the car. Thank heaven for that, because the flames are in the cockpit, actually up inside. You can see them coming out the rear window now, and they're going to try to get some CO2 before that gas tank goes. They did. I think they got it out.
ABC's coverage of the 1964 modified sportsman race at Daytona. Then and now, so much has changed. It's so much safer. The safety crews are so much better versed.
Really would,
no longer a wrecker, you now flatbed them off of the track. That helps.
Well, it keeps them tearing the cars up an awful lot. These are expensive cars compared to what they used to be. Safety's so much better. Today, there would be a fireman on that scene probably in less than half the time. Better fire extinguishers. People are just trained better for it.
Of course,
everything's come a long way.
Compared then to now, these cars now have fuel cells on board which prevent that kind of fire from occurring.
Breakaway fittings.
They have onboard fire systems so the driver can actually fight the fire while he's still sitting in the cockpit. So much more safe today than they were years ago. Let's go to the pits and Jerry Punch.
Well, gentlemen, Derek Cope just came out of the infield care center. He was involved, heavily involved. This Pontiac almost completely destroyed. First of all, Derek, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, Derek. It's unfortunate. You know, we had the Pure Layer 1,000 Trails Nickel Pontiac running real well after some early flat tires, but just unfortunately got somebody else wrecked.
What happened up there? Did you see what happened in front of you?
Well, yeah, I was looking ahead, and I thought Brett looked like he just lost it. Got kind of swapping in back and forth and come up the racetrack, and I thought he was going to go all the way to the wall, so I tried to cut back down. I got clipped from behind and turned down, and at that point, you know, everybody else got sideways with me, and we were just smashing into each other.
Derek Cope released from the hospital. They're still checking over Rick Mast, a young driver from Rockbridge Pass, Virginia. He appears to be okay, but they have not released him as yet.
So Rick Mast still there. Al Kulwicki, Brett Bodine. Lake Speed was involved, though they continue to work on his car. Here are the cars out of the race to this point. Dave Marcus, former winner here, down to the rest. Most of these as a result of this situation that brought out the caution that we are under right now with 170 laps of the 328 scheduled now complete. 500 miles. The Winston Cup cars run here at Atlanta today. And let's take a look at the lineup now. Still running under the caution. Rusty Wallace is out in front. Rick Wilson second, Jeff Bodine, then Richard Petty, and Dale Earnhardt. And looking down 6 through 10, Darrell Waltrip. Still some concern about whether or not those positions would be accurate for Waltrip. The crew doesn't think so. Are hoping for a change. Dick Trickle, Kenny Schrader, Kyle Petty, and Alan Kulwicki. Kyle Petty, by the way, was involved in that accident. He spun, but didn't get involved in contact with anyone and was able to continue on and maintain his position. So under caution once again here, past the halfway point now, 500 miles scheduled on this terrific little super speedway, and this track, Atlanta International, is absolutely outstanding for the fans. You have a nice clear view of the track all the way around, and it is reputed for the action that it presents in all of the races that are contested here.
It's always a good race. It's been a good race when they had the Indy cars here. It's a better race when you have the Nascar cars. So it's just a handling, race, drivers, racetrack. You always see good action here.
For a while, we were running on a record pace. Now we've dropped down to 142.68 miles an hour as the average speed to this point. The track record for a race held by Dale Earnhardt set in 1986 at 152.5 miles an hour. The pace picks up again. Rusty Wallace, the 27 car, is the leader up to the high side. Being chased now by Rick Wilson, who's played it pretty cagey to this point, stayed out of trouble, almost was involved in that accident. But as a result of some careful driving and well-planned stops, Wilson is now running in second place. Jeff Bodine, who was also very close to the action in that last accident, is running in third. Richard Petty is fourth. Darrell Waltrip is running sixth.
Greg Sachs is up in there, Paul, but he's had a little bit back on his pit stop.
Second place car, that yellow number 4 of Rick Wilson.
Trader, the kid, don't you, as we heard him describe, going round and round and round in circles in his go-kart, attached by a rope to a post in the center, waiting for the gas to run out. Of course, things in the set haven't changed all that much, except there's no post and no rope.
I think the most interesting thing about him, Tim, is he doesn't care what kind of a race car he drives or when he drives it.
Well, there's no question about that. Ken Schrader, the driver of this number 25 car, is a racer's racer. He's quick in almost any kind of car. Witness his success here and in USAC. One reason for success is that he races just every chance he gets to run.
I've always raced. If it's a Friday night, you're supposed to be racing Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and Wednesdays, and you just always race them. And then now, being we've got enough different cars throughout the country that people that I can drive for, you can start booking them Tuesdays and Thursdays and going places there too. So there's a race. I was going.
Ken Schrader not only does it well, he absolutely loves to race. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Kenny Schrader is also well liked by his colleagues here in NASCAR racing. He's known as probably the clown prince of auto racing. He's a practical joker extraordinaire. A couple of weeks ago, he made a pit stop under yellow, came flying down pit road out of his pit almost onto the track, and then slammed on the brakes and pulled over in the Rusty Wallace pit. Well, he was pounding the steering wheel. He came running out to see what was wrong with Rusty Wallace crew. He reached out the window and handed one of the crew members a hot dog, laughed, put the car in gear, and drove off. Now, he is known to also get an extra cup of water while he's on pit road. He will drink the first cup of water. As he is pulling down pit road, he will take the second cup of water and throw it out on the crew member as he passes. He has a lot of fun. He enjoys it. He's a very talented young driver.
Well, there's no joking now as Schrader pulls up to challenge Jeff Bodine. The fight is for third place. Schrader and Bodine have been seesawing back a bit throughout the entire run here. And this race has provided some great running up at the front of the field as Schrader closes in, picks up that draft just a bit, and then comes high in the wake, running the high line on the course. All of these drivers still conscious of saving their tires. Now, the report was that this car, the 27 machine of Rusty Wallace, the car here, is smoking, and that smoke is not from the tires. That's coming out of the exhaust pipes, Bobby Under.
Yes, it certainly is. In fact, that's where the exhaust pipes come out. The lower left of the car, you can see it's just smoking there. It's a serious deal because it's smoking from the exhaust pipe, not something running on top of the exhaust pipe.
And here comes Schrader as he challenges Jeff Bodine in what now is a fight for second place, because with the leader in trouble, Waltrip should move out in front, and this is a fight for second between the 5-car of Bodine and the 25 machine of Ken Schrader. They are running neck and neck.
They've been running nose to tail. Now they're neck to neck.
There goes Waltrip picking up the lead as he comes around Schrader.
Yes, for sure. For sure, Rusty Wallace definitely has some engine problems. Looks like now everybody's going to get excited and start punching up to see who can come out on top during this deal.
Smoke continues to flow out of the exhaust pipes on Rusty Wallace's car as Darrell Waltrip, who again has driven a smooth race, very careful, puts us in memory of the Daytona 500 just a month ago, and Waltrip is back out in front. Bodine rides in second, Schrader is third, and Wallace is dropping rapidly backwards. On board with the leader, Darrell Waltrip. You can look back, you can see that second place is really closing in, and Schrader keeps the car out. He's now gone a full lap, despite the fact that he's smoking. Let's go down to the pit. Jerry Punch.
We're in the Rusty Wallace pit with crew chief Barry Dotson, and Barry, a dejected look. What's the problem?
Smoke the cylinder, Jerry. It's missing. It may stay together. It may not. We're just going to wait and see.
Well, you can see that they're not very happy about it. They have lost a cylinder, running on 7 cylinders now, showing a lot of smoke. It could be over very soon for Rusty Wallace.
Wallace keeps it out as Hendrick cars are now 1, 2, and 3 on the circuit. Waltrip, Bodine, Schrader, then Earnhardt, and then Rick Wilson. Rusty Wallace keeps moving it around the track. Bobby, it's not going to repair itself.
No, it isn't, Paul. And most likely it's going to get worse, but regardless, he's not competitive anymore. And for the car that's had such a big advantage and obviously has been controlling the race all day, it's really a sad thing for Rusty Wallace. He's really come into his time. And in Atlanta here today, he was the guy to beat.
Now, don't the officials have to start concerning themselves with what else is coming out of that exhaust pipe beyond smoke? I mean, it could be oil now and oil down the track.
Well, he's coming in now, but so far you can tell that it isn't oil on the track. The biggest problem is going to be shooting out parts out of the exhaust, and then the other cars running over them. That's the biggest fear that the officials can have right then, because it isn't really oil leaking.
Either way, he's in the pits now, and Jerry Punch is there.
You can hear the thick engine in the background. He's trying to keep it running here. They have the car jacked. It is missing significantly, billowing smoke here. They have changed the right side tires. The crew brought him in because they wanted to be careful and not take a chance. This is their favorite race car. We said before, this car has won 5 of the last 7 events it's entered. They don't want to take a chance of this engine coming unglued and him banging the wall and destroying the car.
You know what it's like for a driver when his car goes sour like that? First of all, when it's running well, you and the car feel like one. The car's strength is your strength. You feel on top of the world, and certainly Rusty Wallace has been on top of every competitive situation that he's encountered all day out there on the track. He's been able to pass everybody that he came up on. Suddenly, the car is vibrating. It's probably smelling wrong. It's just feeling terrible. He might as well be sick physically himself, and now he has to be forced to watch the very people that he was able to muscle his way by come by and handle him, and he can't do a thing about it.
He keeps the car out, and it's smoking very badly.
Yes, it is. And not only that, Sam, they're living with the fear that the engine could explode, get parts under his rear tires, and he could get the car bent up, as Jerry talked about earlier.
So Darrell Waltrip, the 17 car, is out in front. He's driven a conservative race, but when he needed to make the moves, he made them and got out to front. The fight now is for second place. Jeff Bodine is continuing to do battle with Ken Schrader. There's Bodine currently running in second, but Schrader is right up there.
Yes, and Schrader, what he does, he just takes a run up on him, just like he's taking a run up there now. He gets up alongside of him occasionally. When he gets too close in behind, Paul, remember, he's got to pull off a little bit and let the radiator cool back down, or let the radiator cool the engine back down. And Kenny is definitely working good. Jeff hasn't been working bad all day either, so I think we're going to see a good race here for a long time.
I asked Jeff Bodine, you see him sweep by Schrader there, I asked Bodine yesterday, when did he know that he was going to be a great racing driver? And he said, I always knew. My dad ran a racetrack. My uncle was a real good driver. I watched him constantly go around and around the track. I just absorbed everything that he could do and knew I could do it. One day I was 17 years old, he told me. He was in charge of the local track. A guy came to test that afternoon. He unlocked the gate, let the man in. The guy said, hey, why don't you try my car? It was the first time he'd ever driven a car. He broke the track record in that car. So sometimes the driver watches, he absorbs it just by seeing what's happening around it, and then he can go out and do it.
Well, of course, he has an equally dedicated driver.
That's the injured crew member, Robert Callicut from Asheboro, North Carolina. It was primarily burns, first and second degree. It could have been a whole lot worse. He is awake. I just spoke with him a minute ago. They are going to load him here in an ambulance and take him over probably to Georgia Baptist Hospital, where they take all the trauma here locally. He'll be taken into the Infield Care Center. Dr. Bob Fritz, the on-site physician who is a thoracic and trauma surgeon, will check him out there. But I talked to Robert just a minute ago, and he told me that he seems to be okay. The primary concern was the fact he inhaled a lot of the fire extinguisher foam and some of that into his lungs.
created a little bit of a problem breathing, but he's breathing fine now. He's awake and alert, and it could have been a whole lot worse down here, fellas.
Well, it certainly was a terrifying moment. There was no question about that. As soon as the fire broke out, at least 2 of the crew members ran from the scene with their clothing on fire. It was quickly extinguished. And you certainly have to be thankful not only for the quick thinking of the safety people, but just the other crew members in helping extinguish that kind of situation. They're there right away, and boy, they go to work with one another just as fast as they can.
You know, a race like this is partly a sport, of course, but it's also almost, in its peacetime, a sort of surrogate for war, isn't it? I mean, the kind of violence and the way people act under pressure reminds you a little bit of that.
Well, certainly you see a lot of nobility. Whenever there's an emergency involved in racing, everyone binds together and helps fight that common enemy. We'll be back at Atlanta.
Thanks for that stat. That was great.
You know, they've got their exhaust out the wrong side of these race
remember
cars.
this.
So they're
Yes,
Teddy.
talking here. You go ahead.
Well, I didn't mean to talk so hurriedly, but I got a full face of that fire extinguisher. I couldn't breathe either down here, so. But you did good, Sheriff.
nice job.
It was
Darrell.
terrific down there. Are you kidding? How are you now?
Oh, I'm okay now. I was doing my imitation of Casper the Ghost for a while. Yeah, I'll head that way.
Back at Atlanta Raceway, Dale Earnhardt, car number 3, is the leader on the backstretch now. He's out in front of the number 5 car of Jeff Bodine. Earnhardt has really had an easy time of it the past several laps. He's not really had to accept any challenge. He's running at his pace, running smoothly, and conserving both the energy of that race car and certainly of the tires. Now we look back as we see the 3 car has gone through, and there is the 5 car. That is Jeff Bodine, currently running in 2nd place. The 3rd place car is the 17 machine of Darrell Waltrip. Of course, we've had a very serious situation here. Fire in the pits during Richard Petty's pit stop, and right in the midst of all of that was our own Jerry Punch. Jerry, it had to be a terrifying moment for you as well.
Well, in all my years on the pit recorder, I've never been as terrified as I was just a few moments ago. I tell you, I was about 4 feet behind Robert Callicutt whenever he was fueling the car, and I saw the backfire and saw the fire creep up the back of his suit, his fire suit. He dropped the gas can, and when he dropped the can, flame came beneath the car up across the wall toward us, and we were watching that. We dove back across the flame, trying to get away from the fire as it was chasing the gasoline back across pit road. Then suddenly fire extinguishers came from every direction. We couldn't see a thing. The white cloud of fire extinguisher smoke everywhere, and we dove back across the pit trying to stay away from the fire. Fortunately, it could have been a lot worse for Callicutt, the gas man there for Richard Petty. Let's go up pit road to Jackaroo. Jack? And Jerry, you talk about those fire extinguishers. This is Doug Shack, who works with Bill Elliott's crew, changes tires. And Doug, you were one of the first fellas there with a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I just seen this car on fire, and I seen Richard driving down pit road, and I just picked up the fire extinguisher, chased him down. put the fire out. And then Ernie radioed to me and said it was still on fire underneath, and I just, he's got to go because we've got a caution coming out because the 26 car, Ricky Rudd, is going up in smoke on the main straightaway. Back to you guys.
Well, Ricky Rudd had an engine let go on the straightaway, and now the 55 car of Phil Parsons loses it coming off of the third turn. Apparently some oil or something laid down up there because he loses it after the yellow comes out. Slowing, though still running at speed, gets the car into the interior barrier, damages the left front, but Phil Parsons manages to keep it going and is now heading back to the pit.
Yes, he just obviously got into the oil, Paul. Then we have Dale Earnhardt for his last stop. They're going to take on all four tires. Now, that's going to put Dale in a pretty good position. Here comes Phil Parsons in, number 50, or down the racetrack, number 55. Dale still in the pits, going back out, all fresh rubber, fresh fuel. Hey, that guy's going to be in good shape right now.
So Earnhardt makes a stop under the caution. And Parsons tries to get himself back into contention, at least back into the pit area. Here's the situation. He was coming off a 3. By the way, that's Earnhardt just behind him as the back end of the car came unstuck. And Parsons came off of the bank. And that transition is from the high bank to a very flat area, continues to aggravate the spin, and then once you get on the grass, the car is totally lost. You're not stopping anything. You see, he tried to lock the brakes at the last moment. All it did was stop the tires. It surely didn't stop the car. So Parsons comes in to try and get some repairs as well as the field all heads for the pits. We'll be back with more from Atlanta in a moment.
Okay.
All right. Heads up. By my calculations, Earnhardt's right on the edge of the distance. Right on the edge. We said that. Yeah, we covered that. That was hours ago. Hours ago. Just count. Learn how to count.
How did last Sunday going with you? 60. No problem.
So he's fine.
Oh, look at, yeah. Easy go over there. Okay.
Yeah.
Earnhardt can make it the rest of the way.
Everybody should be able to now.
Yeah, everybody okay now. There's no window. There's no window. There's no big deal on the four tires. Ruined all of our late model stories. But poor Ricky Rudd just disintegrated an engine. That's what caused that deal.
Do we have any more of the replay of the Parsons accident, maybe a bit earlier? Okay.
Anything on Ricky Rudd?
Right.
Who is it? Who is it?
You know what the teams are?
NC State and Iowa?
Dale Earnhardt, car number 3 at Atlanta International Raceway, the Atlanta 500, the 30th running. This race, 278 laps complete. Earnhardt is out in front of the field under the caution. Because when Phil Parsons came up behind Alan Kulwicki, Kulwicki slowed because he saw a yellow brought out because of the car oiling the surface. Kulwicki slowed. Parsons came up, made contact with Kulwicki, and then spun down across the infield, and so the caution continues to burn at the start-finish line. Now, we've had a serious situation here, a refueling accident in Richard Petty's car. We'll continue to cover that situation. Now, with Dale Earnhardt out in front, Jim Ledine in second place, and Darrell Waltrip in third, all of the cars have made what appear to be routine stops. And that, Bobby Unser, should mean that they have no other stops to make. Everyone should have plenty of fuel to run the distance now.
Not only plenty of fuel, Paul, but plenty of rubber. Everybody's got on all new tires all the way around. That was something that was going to make a difference towards the end of the race, but that's no longer a factor. fuel. It's going to be plenty of fuel. So we really should see some good racing between here and the end.
On board the number 94 car, that's Sterling Marlin. And you get a real good idea at how bad the sun is becoming as it continues to sink lower and lower. The glare on these windshields is really something to overcome, and there are times when they can barely see in front of them. As Sterling Marlin works his way around the track, we continue to be under caution. We'll be back with more exclusive coverage of the Atlanta 500 after this commercial and a word from our ABC station. Oh, yeah. No, thank you. I don't like it sitting here. And it was triple overtime. Double overtime. Yeah.
Anything on your fourth place car, the 84 Trickle?
We've talked about him a bit.
Yeah.
What a nice job he's
I mean, that's a good run, and I can add to it about he's a relief driver for a relief driver.
Darrell Waltrip gets out some chewing gum, and in the NCAA East Regional, well, they had to go to double overtime, but North Carolina State over Iowa 102-96, and North Carolina State will now face Georgetown. And what we're faced with is a sprint to the finish as soon as they come off caution. 281 laps are complete, 328 the scheduled distance. Dale Earnhardt, the defending champion, is out in front. Darrell Waltrip, you ride with him now. He is in third place. Jeff Bodine is in second place. And when the green flag flies, what we really should see is a run to the finish. All of the pit stops have been complete. The pit crews, for the most part, have become spectators. Unless, of course, something happens on the car, they really should have no opportunity to touch that car until the decision is made as to which one rolls into winner's circle. Let's go to Jerry Pine.
Well, gentlemen, Dale Earnhardt did not want to see this caution come out. The reason being is they were going to come in. His car runs better on worn tires. He realizes that Waltrip is very, very strong on new tires. Now, they came in. They had been running a scuffed tire. It's a tire that they run 4 or 5 or 6 laps on Friday or Saturday and take off and let cool down. It makes the tire pure. The tire's a little bit harder. Well, they're out of scuffed tires. So when they came in that time, they put on brand new tires, and that is a problem, fans, because brand new tires will wear very quickly here in Atlanta, and they're very concerned here in the Earnhardt pit.
Well, they should be concerned. They say that new tires go away in 4 to 6 laps. Maybe you'll run as many as 10, but that's certainly a long way from the finish. This is the lineup at the moment. Earnhardt, Bodine, Waltrip, Dick Trickle, who's really had a magnificent race. He's been staying in the middle 5, running just out of the top 5, and has now managed to move up and is running in 4th place in his Buick. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, what's so interesting about the Trickle situation is he's a relief driver for a relief driver. Remember, this is Bobby Allison's mount. Bobby's still on the men back in Hueytown, Alabama. Well, this team here behind me, they're actually with Mike Alexander until Daytona when Alexander was injured. He went to Rockingham. He complained of a problem with his collarbone, and a lot of people feel that it may be a result of an accident he had back in December where he went into a coma with a head injury in Pensacola, Florida. Trickle came on board as a relief driver, and he has driven the car a great way today, and he's doing a terrific job. Back to you.
Well, as the sun drops lower in the sky, the green flag comes out, and we are back racing once again. With no caution, we will run all the way to the finish. Certainly no call for stops, as Earnhardt is now being chased by the yellow and white number 5 car of Jeff Bodine. But Earnhardt, taking advantage of those fresh tires, at least for the moment, pulls out onto the backstretch and begins to leave Bodine just a bit behind. Bodine running up on the high side of the course, and now the 17 car, that's Darrell Waltrip, moves in to challenge just behind Bodine. And Bodine is able to close down a bit on Earnhardt.
Now remember, Paul, there's a lot of floor dry out there, oil dry, trying to dry up the oils on the racetrack. The guys have to be a little bit careful now because when they run across that stuff, it makes it a little bit slippery. You can see the groove where it is, and you can see where they start cleaning it off. Then they'll pick the speed back up again.
Darrell Waltrip views to the second place. Jeff Bodine running just ahead, and you can see that visibility, Sam, is getting to be a real factor. There are times when at least the camera can't see it all.
As they come around that fourth turn, the sun is very, very low in the sky. It's something all the drivers complained about before the race. Several of them have put special coverings over the tops of their windshield to help their view out a little bit, but it is an issue. You know, I wonder, as Dale Earnhardt leads the race, you see him there on the left of the screen, whether his car owner, Richard Children, perhaps thinking to cheer Dale up, might have radioed to him about that North Carolina state victory, because Dale comes from Mooresville, North Carolina, and, you know, those Carolinians stick together, and I think if he knew that news, it might just give him a real burst right now.
I know in Walter's car, we could sure use a cleaner windshield, and I know our camera could also. It's amazing how little those drivers can see it at certain points around the track.
Well, of course, their vision is somewhat better than the camera is, but not that much better. The camera has to fight other factors to be able to operate in this environment. The drivers at least have an opportunity to shield their eyes just a bit and find a position that's comfortable, but still the vision is not good.
What happens, Paul, is they go into turn 3, they don't see for a while because the sun shines.
Bodine runs in second place, chasing the leader Earnhardt. The Chevrolet trying to chase down the defending champion. Bodine, originally from upstate New York, now moved down to live in the South and trying to catch Dale Earnhardt. Waltrip runs in third. There's the yellow and white 5 car of Bodine. Familiar color as he runs in second place. Now in the past, we've all recognized Jeff Bodine as a handsome, clean-shaven man, so handy with a smile. But over the past winter, he decided that maybe that clean-shaven appearance wasn't working to his advantage.
Out as a disguise before the holidays, Christmas time. It's terrible hard for a celebrity, you know, I guess that's where I am now, to go to a mall in North Carolina to do any shopping for his family. And I have that problem. I love talking to race fans and signing autographs, but when you're on a mission to shop, buy some Christmas presents for your boys and your wife, you need to get that done, or Christmas Day is going to be a pretty unhappy time in the Bodine house. So I needed a disguise, and so I started growing this, and it was getting, at that time, it was looking pretty bad, real bad. I'd wear some glasses and a hat and an old pair of jeans and an old jean jacket or something, and go to the mall, and I did my shopping real easily. No one bothered me. No one recognized me. The security guard in the mall followed me around. He thought I was going to steal something. That's how bad I looked.
Well, he looks pretty good right now, running in second place behind Earnhardt. Darrell Waltrip closes up just behind in what is becoming now a sprint to the finish with about 38 laps to go on this course, just a tick over a mile and a half around. Waltrip comes to the inside of Bodine to fight for second. And Waltrip quite easily seems to come inside and pick up second for Bodine, but Bodine hangs on, looking at him off of the right rear of Waltrip's car from the onboard camera. Waltrip comes up into the high lane and takes the position.
That's as close to racing as you ever see. Look at him coming up right behind. It's almost like an IROC race, Paul. He almost touched Waltrip there. And I think we're just going to see a better race as it comes along here, but it looks like Darrell Waltrip maybe coming to life. Maybe there was something to what Jerry Punch said earlier about the tires coming in.
It's time here at Atlanta to pull out all the stops. Run just as hard as you can because we're closing the distance on the 500-mile mark and the checkered flag.
Dale Earnhardt has won in Atlanta 4 times. Darrell Waltrip has won here 2 times. Both are familiar with the experience. Both, I'm sure, want to taste that most delightful sensation of winning this big race one more time.
Dale Earnhardt runs in front of the field. Waltrip, you're on board with him as he runs in second place. Bodine is now back in third. The only other car on the leader lap is Dick Trickle in fourth. We'll be back.
When you come back, they have not made any changes, any adjustments at all to this race car all day. Remember they started loose? That's incredible for 500 miles. That Waltrip.
Waltrip moving up on Earnhardt.
Start doing the interval first and second.
Less than a second now.
We're back at the Atlanta 500 in what is developing as a terrific battle running to the finish of this race. Dale Earnhardt is out in front, but just behind Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Bodine. Dick Trickle sitting back just a bit, but first, second, and third running right together on the race course. Let's go down to the pits now. This report from Jack Arute.
Well, we're here with Jeff Hammond, who's the crew chief on Darrell Waltrip's car, and you're running second, but you told me just a while ago you have made no adjustments to this race car throughout the course of this 500-mile race, Jeff.
No, Jackie, the car's really worked good. The chassis has been pretty consistent all day. We've debated whether or not we need to make a small adjustment, but mainly we just work with the tires and the tire stagger and try to keep the car, consistent with the tires today instead of really having to work with the chassis. It's been pretty close.
Now, one of the things that Darrell has done, too, is altered his line dramatically. He's been on the low side of the set of tires and then run all the way up to what we call the Richard Petty high side here at the racetrack.
Well, Jackie, what we found out in our experience there in Atlanta, you can run high, you can run low. As long as you can pick the throttle up, it doesn't really matter. You can make good time high or low. Just have to see where the car won't. If the tires delegate you to go up, you go up. If they tell you you can stay down, you stay down. So we just have to keep hunting and searching. And so far today, we've worked really good with the radios and the watches, and just been able to let him find his own groove.
Well, he's found the groove, and these guys are haven't made in the shade. He's under an umbrella here waiting, but they're still in second place. And the man that's with the crew chief on the car that's in first place is Jerry Punch. Jerry?
As Jack, Richard Tillers is actually the car owner of this car, and Richard, you made the call a few laps ago. You said that Waltrip would be so very strong on fresh, brand-new tires, and you're right.
Yeah, his car's been working good all day. We knew We just didn't need that last caution. But I think Dale, he'll hang in there. I got a lot of confidence in him.
You were concerned about the tires you put on. They might give up for those last maybe 10 or 12 laps. Does that show up on the watches so far?
No, I figured the time they were going to make up, they were going to make up pretty early.
Richard Childers here watching these waning laps. Now we're approaching about 26 or 27 laps to go, trying to hope maybe that his driver, Earnhardt, can hang on.
About 27 to go with Earnhardt out in front, followed by Waltrip and Bodine.
Well, you heard what Richard Childers just said, Paul. He said, I have a lot of confidence in him. That means that Dale Earnhardt, and it really has come to that in this race. This is going to be a race between drivers now. There's nothing more the crew chief's going to do. The cars are set up the way they're going to be set up unless a freak yellow comes out. This is when you count on your man behind the wheel. Two of the very best men who have won races all through the 1980s are now going to battle it out for supremacy here in Atlanta. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, remember, Sam, that Earnhardt is what we call a real tough driver. He's probably got about 2 more aces up his sleeves yet. But I tell you, Darrell Waltrip is good. So is Bodine. I think we're seeing one of the best finishes.
From Asheboro, North Carolina, they have sent him. Well, if you want to give it up there, we're going to check. I believe they sent him to Georgia Baptist Hospital. I'm checking right now.
From Asheville, you say?
Asheboro.
Asheboro. No, I want you to do it. You're the guy to do it.
Waltrip is putting the pressure on troops. I think he's got her wide open.
Laps to go as Dale Earnhardt tries to hold off a charging Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip has moved up from time to time right onto the bumper of Earnhardt's car and then drops back. Just a bit of a test. Jeff Bodine runs in third. Dick Trickle is driving a splendid race. He finished here last year in third place, and that's where he's running, or at least has a chance of running in fourth right now, but he is trying to move up and challenge Bodine, but the real race is right at the front of the pack. Earnhardt and Waltrip.
Earnhardt is back to smoking that right rear tire a little bit, Paul. Now, that hasn't been bad early. He basically has done this all day, but I just noticed going through one of the turns, there's smoke coming off the right rear, which means that he might be running a little extra hard. And he did pull away from Darrell Waltrip just a little bit there.
You saw the stats. It's been a spectacular race, 10 different leaders. Earnhardt is the leader at the moment and trying to hold off one.
And you saw the average speed of about 140 miles an hour. Of course, that includes pit stops, and we've had several yellow flag conditions that have slowed the pace. In the last couple of laps, the leaders have been lapping at about 170 miles an hour.
And Bodine's in trouble. In the fourth turn, up where visibility is a problem, Bodine gets into the wall. The yellow flag comes out, and the race will slow. 313 laps complete. Just 15 laps away from the finish, and Jeff Bodine cracks the wall.
Oh, and he hit it hard, directly right on the front end, Paul. Let's hope there's nothing wrong with him here, because it really looks like he hit that wall hard.
Earnhardt slows, as does Waltrip. That was Kyle Petty that rolled past on the inside. Of course, the yellow is displayed at the start-finish line. Rescuer is already at the car with Jeff Bodine. Steam coming up from the engine, but Jeff is taking his helmet off, moving around in the car, so he apparently is okay, though I'm pretty sure he is taken up, kept his helmet on.
No, he's all right. He says he's got a few sore spots, but...
So Jeff Bodine gets into the wall, and Dale Earnhardt takes the opportunity to stop for tires, and they're going to go for all four. And so does Darrell Waltrip. So fresh tires go on to both first and second place. And that will definitely make it a sprint to the finish of this race.
It certainly will, Paul. It's really didn't expect that to happen. Dick Trickle is going to go into first place right now. It's going to be a real close race. Oh, Earnhardt just got by.
But that's significant. That's significant, though.
Big deal, Tim. Big deal right there.
Little race down the fifth, and Earnhardt comes out ahead of Waltrip, so their position is relative. Dick Trickle comes into the lead now.
Transmissions were catching heck right there.
Yeah, so the relationship of the two leaders remains the same as it was before the incident.
All right, let's go back and look at this accident. There's Jeff Bodine.
This has got to be tired, right? I mean, it's such
right down the middle of the course to this point. Smooth run for him. I'd say your analysis is correct. As the back end just comes unstuck. The car comes around, and Rick Wilson catches him.
Pushed him around. I think he just plain lost the car. I don't think he had a tire with that, Paul or Sam. Either one. I think it's just a simple matter. He lost it. He was going to have a normal spin like we've seen the day earlier, and somebody caught him, pushed his front end right into the wall, but he darn sure hit that wall hard.
Fortunately, Jeff Bodine is okay. Rick Wilson has some front end damage, so
that's really sad. Jeff had a good day all day. Like he surely had a third place at least.
And Rick Wilson, by the way, stays out on the course. He is running in fifth place, 2 laps behind the leader. Now let's go back to the pit stop. Both first and second, Earnhardt and Waltrip, came into the pits under the caution. And then they decided to race one another out, Bobby Unser. There's Wilson's car being repaired in the pits. This is Earnhardt, the 3 car, making the run, and that is Waltrip just ahead.
That Darrell's trying as hard as he can to get that thing moving, but Earnhardt already had a head of steam up leaving the pit. That all has to do with where you pit. Earnhardt started just a snitch earlier, and he was able to get a run at Darrell going out. Now the question comes to mind is why did they change their tires? It would have seemed like they would have both stayed out because the tires seem to be working pretty good then.
So Dick Trickle is out in front, followed by Earnhardt and Waltrip. We'll be back right after this.
Here's some stuff on Trickle.
Do we have anything here?
Yeah, here we go. Look. Try these two.
We had a third here last year. Okay. Never won.
That was a poor decision. Man, if I would have been those guys, I would have not made a pit stop.
Best finish was what?
Driving for Juicy John.
This was okay.
Okay.
Waltrip was
It'll change here. Got to the white line first. Okay. We've got a, you might, Ben. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Yep.
Why? Because he passed him after the white line, so he passed him theoretically on the racetrack.
Trainer's back.
See what happened? The white line was the division point, and he passed him past the white line, so they said that's a pass on the racetrack. Making sense. He said he was
Blend line.
You got to explain that.
Okay, and then also, do you want to talk to Jimmy Fenning, the crew chief on the leader?
Otherwise, we'll look up.
We're under caution in Atlanta. Is it possible that Dick Trickle may be looking at his first Winston Cup win? He is out in front and will remain there until they come back to the green flag. Second place is Darrell Waltrip, and then Dale Earnhardt. Now, you might well ask why that situation when you saw Earnhardt beat Waltrip out of the pits a bit earlier. Well, let's look at that situation one more time. Here is Earnhardt on the roll, heading out of the pits. Waltrip's pit is much further down. Waltrip is running pretty good at this point, but now look at the white line. Waltrip gets to that white line first, in the estimation of the officials, and that is what makes the decision. So Waltrip has been moved into second place, Earnhardt into third. Let's go to Jack Arena.
Well, first, let's update you on the Waltrip pit stop. Throughout that pit stop, Waltrip looked in his mirror, kept watching and watching for one thing, car number 3. It was a drag race. But the calculated move that may have been made is by this guy. Jimmy Benning is the crew chief on Dick Trickle's car. You did not bring Dick in.
No, if we would have put on 4 new ones, our car would have been too tight. So we're just going to gamble and stay out with the Miller High Left field.
Kind of a change. I remember 4th of July in Daytona one time, Bobby Allison came in and took on 4 tires when you were the crew chief. So it's a change of strategy.
Yeah, we had a little different setup for that. We're just hoping for the best right now.
I can bet you one guy's on the edge of his seat right now, and that's the driver that normally wheels this car for Jimmy Benning, Bobby Allison, back in Hueytown, Alabama, gentlemen.
Well, Dick Trickle probably sitting a little forward as well, Jack. Best finish, 5th at Charlotte, 1973. Now, he's staring at the back end of the pace car and being scored as the leader of the race. You may know, too, that Kenny Schrader's 25 car back out into the action, though running, of course, well off the pace. The faster cars are those on the high side. The 84 car of Trickle, then Waltrip, and then Dale Earnhardt.
Trickle, remember, though, wins dozens and dozens of races. Not Winston Cup races, but another form of racing all year long. Dominates the headlines, so he's very used to the strategies involved with winning, just not this particular form of racing.
Longtime veteran out of the ASA. Now here they come, back to the green flag. The field spreads out. Trickle finds his position and decides to run down in the center. As Trickle continues to lead. And Waltrip comes fast, Earnhardt comes fast. Trickle drops back to third place. The fight is between Waltrip and Earnhardt as Trickle drops backwards in the first turn. Waltrip now has the lead. Earnhardt closes up just behind. 319 laps complete, 9 to go.
You can see Earnhardt's car just wiggling going in. He's trying so hard to get Darrell early, not to let a few laps go by. When he went to that last
catch, Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip out in front. That's the view in his rear view mirror as he looks back and sees Earnhardt closing in just a bit more. Into the third turn now. Waltrip continues his lead in the 17 car. Earnhardt about 100 yards back. They come off of the fourth turn. The checkered flag now being displayed, and it's displayed to Darrell Waltrip, who wins at the Atlanta 500. Darrell Waltrip has scored the victory here, his second win of the year. Earnhardt comes across the line in second place, but the day belongs to Darrell Waltrip.
That was a very good job. The new tire theory worked out. It was an exceptionally good job. All the guys did a good job, Paul. I think we saw a fantastic race today.
Chevrolets first and second. Waltrip and Earnhardt. As Earnhardt pulls up on the high side, Darrell slows down so he can enjoy this victory all by himself.
Waltrip's third win now here at Atlanta. Earnhardt still has 4, of course.
Waltrip, hand out the window, pulling down his palm a bit. Comes down a gear as he slows down.
By golly, you'd have to cool your palm down a little bit if Earnhardt's been on your tail right there close to the end, wouldn't you?
That little wave to the fans who certainly enjoyed their day here at Atlanta International.
This may mean we will be treated to the Waltrip shuffle in Victory Circle. I don't know. I certainly hope not, but I fear it may be coming.
Darrell Waltrip makes a final left-hand turn. Sets himself to shut the engine down. The final location is Winner's Circle here in Atlanta. He has won the Atlanta 500. And look at that smile.
Now, what he's taking off right there, Paul, is the head strap, his neck strap, to keep his head up. You get so many CGs, and especially on these high-bank tracks, that you have to put a strap around your shoulder, just like you do in the Indy cars, to hold your head up all day.
But this has got to be the moment when if you were fatigued just 3 laps before the finish, now that you're the winner, that's all gone away.
For sure.
Darrell Waltrip unstraps the helmet. He rode with him to the checkered flag.
One of our camera cars. Very happy men.
Darrell Waltrip now begins to climb out. The round of applause will go up.
You'll see as he gets out, it's not an easy matter to get in and out of these cars either. They are really in there.
record book. For Darrell Waltrip, and let's go to Jackaroo. Jack?
Darrell Waltrip giving a gift to Jessica Lee, and he's coming out of the car now to the applause of the crowd at the Atlanta International Raceway. The winner, and the first time that, oh, wait a minute, Darrell has to do the Mickey Shuffle here. He guaranteed that he would do this. He broke a helmet at Daytona when he did that shuffle. I noticed you didn't bring the helmet this time.
They told me the helmets cost more than hats. Use the hat.
Hey, the first time that you in your career have won a race.
Is this Daytona?
No, this is Atlanta.
All right,
this is Atlanta. First time that you've won a race with an in-car camera.
Was there a camera in my car?
A bunch of million people were
It's
riding
gonna
over
stay
your
in
shoulder.
there from now on. I can tell you, don't take it out. I'm taking it home with me.
Hey, a great win for you, and it was what was really terrific, Darrell, was the fact that Jeff told us that you didn't change the car all day.
No, I got tired. Looking at the camera, I'm sure you can see my neck got tired. But the Lord, thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. It's your day, and thank you for that. My cup was up today. But I got tired, and those cautions really helped. They made the difference.
Well, it made a difference. He's back in victory lane and the first driver in Winston Cup history for 1989 to score a double. Daytona and Atlanta.
George, I'll see you Friday.
Yeah, he's going to see George Bush on Friday.
So with a battle to the finish, Darrell Waltrip holds on to beat Dale Earnhardt to the line. We'll be back with more in a moment. Anybody getting away now? What's the story, Ben? Trickle's best finish, though, right? What are we doing? Unofficial standings, Waltrip followed by Earnhardt, Dick Trickle in the best finish of his Winston Cup career, then Kyle Petty and Sterling Marlin. Take a look at the 6th through 10th position. Wilson, Neil Bonnet, Bud Strickland, Dale Jarrett, and Morgan Shepherd. Now let's go down to Jerry Pine.
Well, gentlemen, Dale Earnhardt gave it a yeoman effort, and Dale, we talked to Richard Childress from 50, told us that Waltrip was so very tough on new tires, and that proved to be the fact.
Well, that's true. That's where he beats that. You know, it's good. Jim Goodman's car ran good, though, and we really wasn't that dissatisfied with the run, but, you know, we was hoping it'd go all the way on that last run, not have another caution, but we were better on older tires, and it would have took us a while to wire him back down and, you know, get back by him, but, you know, that's what pays and that's what wins is beating you for those few laps.
Dale Earnhardt finishes second here at Atlanta with a gallant effort to the winner, Darrell Waltrip.
Earnhardt second, Dick Trickle third, but Darrell Waltrip owns the day at Atlanta International. We'll be right back right after this.
He made it all day? He's sitting here on the bench. Okay.
Jerry should update the injury. Jerry should update the injury.
Yeah, I guess I can. Yes, I can. Yes. Yes. Ben, do you want any more? Do you want trickle?
I think they've got it.
Okay. All right. All right.
You're going to have some video of that situation? Okay. And you're counting me to my goodbye, right? Okay. Take your time with it, Jerry. Do it right.
Racetrack before.
Another look at the final standings. Waltrip the winner. Dick Trickle, the best Winston Cup finish of his career. Sterling Marlin started in last place and came up to finish fifth. One serious situation, the fire in the Petty Pit. Let's get an update from Jerry Pine.
We had checked in the infield care center, and the injured driver, the injured crew member, Robert Calicut, has basically first and second degree burns. The burns are to the chin area, the neck, part of the chest, and of course, most importantly, the lower extremities. He is being flown now, we're told, to a burn center in Augusta, Georgia, where he will be treated there, and we hope things will be okay. I spoke with him before he left here at the racetrack, before he was taken to the infield care center. He was awake and alert. We gave him our best wishes, and we hope everything turns out well for Robert Calicut.
And certainly the injuries are not life-threatening. We wish him a speedy recovery. It's a turning point in the race in the closing laps as Earnhardt, trying to catch Waltrip coming out of the pits, physically caught him, but the rules caught up with Earnhardt. They scored Waltrip to that white line first, and so when they lined up behind Dick Trickle, they put Waltrip in front of Earnhardt. Both of them went around Trickle, and Waltrip went on to win the Atlanta 500. And as a result of that, Waltrip has won 2 out of 3 races, but still, unofficial check of the points, he should trail Earnhardt unofficially by about 79 points. And there is a very, very happy Darrell Waltrip with his daughter as he now begins to pose for photographers. Congratulations to Darrell Waltrip, and so long from the ABC Racing Team here in Atlanta. The executive producer of ABC Sports is Jeffrey Mason. Coverage of the Atlanta 500 was produced by Ben Harvey, directed by Bob Goodrich. Technical Director John Fider. Associate Producer Jack Graham. Associate Directors Dick Buffington and Brian McCullough. Saturday, join ABC's Professional Bowlers Tour for the $150,000 King Louis Open.